This live stream may contain mature material some viewers might not find suitable.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special, very first episode, in fact, of Smark Guys 3.0. We made it! Third time's a charm. How is everybody doing tonight? We are hot. Big ups, everybody. So, I'm here. I'm live across YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, and all that needs to be done is to link up with Dashfire, fellow friend of the channel, alongside everybody hanging out with us here across YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. We are live. We are hot. Big ups, everybody. Do be patient with us. This is our first time doing this. There may be some kinks. There may be some rough patches, but I feel like if we all hang out and just enjoy ourselves and have a good conversation about pro wrestling, we're going to have a really good time. You know how we do on this corner of the internet, y'all. We stay hydrated. And a very special announcement when it comes to this particular production. When we're talking Smark Guys, when we're talking the pro wrestling, we're going to keep the alerts muted. We're going to keep the shout outs segmented on their own parts of the shows. So if you have something to say, if you have any support to show, we're not ignoring you. We're just going to keep the conversation going until we get to the planned shout-out segments. Is that all right? Are you guys okay with that? Very cool. I have the tabs open. I want to make sure that everything is working properly. I have my docket open, guys. I did a lot of research trying to get all of this popping. And let me just take a little look-see over at Dashfire's stream to see how he's holding up.
Yes, that giant Gonzalez. We're gonna knuckle Shawn Michaels, that is right, HBK himself. PWR's biggest hero. We're gonna talk about Mr. Hughes, Kamala, Crush, all your favorites from 1993. I hope you guys are ready for this. So I'm ready for this.
All right, so let me just go ahead and call on in.
Start in just a few seconds. We will. Anybody have any questions?
Hey, what's going on, friend? And you know what's actually kind of crazy? I did not start watching wrestling. Like, it was in the peripheral in my life. But 93 was actually before my time. This is the first time that I actually seen this event. Can you believe that? Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. I have a lot of notes. I had myself a magical butter day one day out of the week that I was quarantined with COVID, and I was like, all right, let's get faded. Let's watch this. And it was crazy. It was available on the WWE YouTube channel, The Vault. We got to watch it just free. Screw Netflix, dude. Yeah, well, my penis is up for Smark Guys 3.0, and I hope everybody here across YouTube, Twitch, and Kick over on this corner of the internet, and everybody hanging out over on Dashfire's channels on YouTube and Kick. All of the information is inside of the YouTube description. Have a tab out, have all the tabs out. I'm seeing a lot of people here in the chat. It's really good to see everybody here. Thank you all so much for sharing in this very first episode, this inaugural episode. Is that the correct word? Of Smark. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You got that right? Okay, hold on. See, I told y'all that there were going to be some hiccups along the way. So let me go ahead and fix that. Thank you for calling it out, fellow Canadian. There it is. All right, say something now.
Okay, hello. How's everyone doing?
All right. Thank you guys so much. Yep. Disaster stream.
Well, we're following DSP's footsteps here.
Damn, no, that's a long trek to travel. It's a very unfortunate path he's taking. All right, thank you guys.
I was telling people before this too, no more sex pests, no more registered sex offenders, no more drug addicts like Snaggletooth. We are going to pick this up. We're going to put this in new lengths. So when people think about Smark Guys, they think about Diaz and they think about Dash.
Oh shit, planting the flag. I love it.
That's right. We're going to do more work on this, put more effort into this than they ever did.
Sheesh, it's going to happen. It's already happening. And if I could peel back the curtain a little bit of a preamble, Dashfire reached out to me and was like, I think that we could really do something with this. And I'm the type that has been in this production scene for a while, engineering podcasts and shows and stuff like that. So I have a pretty good track record and experience with doing these types of things. But when Dashfire came to me with this idea and with the execution, the logistics of everything, it was an absolute pleasure to be able to do this type of work with somebody who is prepared, who is concise, and if I may be so bold, is one of the best hosts that I've ever had the privilege of sharing a show with. And that's just not my opinion. That is the same opinion that I think is shared across a lot of different people across the community. So I want to give you your flowers up front. I want to let you know that, I only rock with the best, and Dashfire over here, especially when it comes to putting together these productions, is one of the best. So big ups to you.
Well, thank you for that. I'm a person that loves structure. You can almost say I'm hyper fixated on it, but I don't like doing things on the fly. Boom, boom, boom. We're doing this, this, and this. I absolutely love structure. I'll just say that.
There you go. Well, look at that. And I do have all of my notes sitting right here in front of me. I took a lot of notes. Like I said, I sat there. I got heavily medicated. I had my notepad in front of me, and I have a lot of notes. Like I said, I never seen this show before. I think I started coming in at around, I guess, 94, 95. So this was literally right up until the point when everything kind of took a turn. And this show actually was a very pivotal point in WWF's history. A lot of people will like to say that this is one of the first steps that the company made and pivoted towards a new direction moving into the future.
Exactly. This was a transitional period for WWF. It was the end of the golden era. The Hogans, the Savage, the Sids. It was the start of the new generation. So this specific pay-per-view was the actual transition between that. Vince McMahon was under federal investigation for steroid use and distribution at this time too. And WWF Monday Night Raw debuted in this year a few months before this. And do you know what the original title for WWF Monday Night Raw was?
Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. It was probably a decade into watching Raw is War that I realized that Raw and War were the same word written backwards and forward. So, no, I did not.
So the original title they wanted for Monday Night Raw before they settled on Raw was WWF Down and Dirty.
Oh, brother. I don't think that's... I'm glad that they went with Raw.
Yeah, so a PG company saying Down and Dirty. Even their music video, the very first one, they kept saying how they like it raw.
Ooh, yikes. Brother, it's a different time now. It's a different time. You can't get away saying that kind of stuff nowadays.
Yeah. And after this, the days of Hogan, Warrior, Savage, Sid, etc. were on the way out. replaced by smaller, more athletic wrestlers, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Razor Ramon. It was also the first pay-per-view to break the big four WWF pay-per-views, and WCW had 6 at this time.
Damn.
And if you notice, the crowds were so much more excited, and they popped for everything. They were never silent, and the characters were larger than life too.
It was really weird watching this show because you could see the flashes of brilliance, especially when it came to like the Bret Harts and even the Crushers and Shawn Michaels of the show and of the tournament. Um, you could definitely see that they were starting to implement a little bit of a different direction. The in-ring stuff, uh, past the goofy Saturday morning cartoon stuff, maybe that simpleton childish type stuff that they like to put out there with the Doink the Clowns and stuff. It's really interesting to see how things were back then and then to see when everything started to kind of blend into this new style that they were trying to present.
Yeah, and one of the reasons they did that was the steroid investigation. And a little behind the scenes here. So in 1991, so this is 2 years prior, ringside doctor George Zarian convicted of supplying WWF and the wrestlers, including to Vince's office at WWE headquarters with steroids. And even before that in 1890 or 1989, Linda McMahon, Vince's wife, sent a memo that that doctor should not be used. So she warned Vince and everyone else not to use him. And guess what what happened after that? The doctor turned on Vince, cooperated with prosecutors in New York, and then Vince was indicted in New York in 1993. So around this time, he's indicted on federal charges of steroids.
Now, isn't that crazy to think? Now, there's a lot of different perspectives on how you can kind of look at this. And I think for a lot of people here in the chat too, across your channels and my channels, we like to kind of frame this conversation as somebody that has one varied different opinion from the other. If it was just the two of us sitting here agreeing with each other, then it wouldn't really make for a compelling show. And so as somebody who has been a professional wrestler, a licensed professional wrestler for over 20 years, I can say that the pressures of having a physique that only is obtainable by using steroids, it's very interesting and also tragic to see how much damage not only has steroids, but the entire opioid situation that goes along with the type of lifestyle that you, for lack of a better description, like it was a necessity at that time because you were competing against other performers that were willing to make that type of sacrifice.
And especially around this time, it was more cutthroat too. So if you got injured, you had to work injured. So if you had to take time off, there's always someone else trying to take your spot too. So you had to be at the peak. You had to get that perfect body. You had to get the perfect ringness too, because you're worried. It's not like today. Today, it's a little bit more friendlier.
I could say that thankfully I was on the tail end of all of that insanity, all of the attitude era stuff, all of the rampant drug and the drug use and steroid use and such. And it's still very apparent in some pockets. I'm just glad that professional wrestling as an industry and as a whole is starting to move away. At least it's a slow crawl to a different direction, to where we're trying to figure out how to preserve our bodies more and actually not take such a, this industry, the pro wrestling industry, will grind you up and spit you out and not even think twice about it. So the choices that these performers and chose to do with their bodies, you can see nowadays, like the ravages of the pro wrestling careers on like John Cena, hunched over, can't walk straight, or you don't even have to look far. You can check out Lex Luger, who is wheelchair bound and had to, really make some strides with Diamond Dallas Page to get up on the stage and accept a ceremony. So it's crazy to think how this, in how all of this beyond seeing it on television, sometimes the stuff that you see that you don't see beyond what you saw on the events could be just as interesting as what you were seeing on the screen.
Yeah, so eventually as well, the charges would be dropped. He would be found not guilty because of Hulk Hogan testifying for Vince McMahon.
Mm.
And things were almost completely different because there was a plan. If Vince McMahon went to jail, the person that would have taken over would have been Jerry Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett's dad, who actually debuted in the company in 1993. So it would have been a whole different WWF.
Who would have thought, like in the multiverse of pro wrestling, where Jerry Jarrett and the Jeff Jarretts of the world and that pocket of the pro wrestling world ended up being the centerpiece for everything.
Well, that would have been interesting with, Shawn Michaels behind the scenes, the Click, and then Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett running things. So there'd be button heads there.
It's crazy to think too that even in the modern day, even in 2026, Jeff Jarrett is out there doing the damn thing, still being a part of the wrestling industry. It's so crazy to think how seeing these talents on, I mean, we can say it's actually factually true, the late 1900s to modern day, still going out there and still making money off of this business.
Yeah, there's definitely some that can still go, especially at high performance. And so this is also a time as well where they wouldn't announce really these small arenas because they didn't want to look like a small thing. So throughout this pay-per-view, they kept saying Dayton, but they also said the heartland of America to make it look bigger. And on commentary, we had Jim Ross, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bobby the Brain Heenan. And there's also, I guess, technical issues. So at times they couldn't hear each other. So there was some sort of like communication cutoffs there. Which is very weird because you noticed that.
Yes. I actually had this note right here. I was looking at it. There was not a lot of times, maybe a handful of times where it just seemed like there was no commentary whatsoever. And I thought because we were watching it on the WWE Vault Network page, that maybe they like said something that would maybe be more agreeable in the late 90s, but not so much in the modern day. So I thought that they censored some parts out, maybe some, I don't know. So I'm asking everybody here in the chat right now, do you guys remember seeing this show? Do you remember them saying in the announce booth some wild off the cuff shit that maybe wouldn't fly nowadays? Or am I just crazy?
Well, there was some stuff with certain gimmicks that we'll get into. A certain Native American gimmicks.
I got some notes about that.
Yeah, looking back, it's something. So this was actually not the very first tournament. It was the very first pay-per-view. And a lot of people say there's never been a person that's won the tournament twice, but that's a lie. So previous winners, 1985, Magnificent Don Morocco. 86, Harley Race.
Shout out.
87, Randy Savage. 88, Ted DiBiase. 89, Tito Santana. There was no tournaments in 90 or 92. 1991 was Bret the Hitman Hart, who will be a very big fixture here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the qualifiers. Mr. Perfect beat Doink in 3 matches. 2 of them were draws. On WWF Raw, Lex Luger beat Bob Backlund via countout. Razor Ramon beat Tito Santana. Jim Duggan beat Papa Shango. Bam Bigelow beat Typhoon. Tatanka beat, when I saw this, memories just came back. Tatanka beat Giant Gonzalez.
Wow.
I forgot he even existed.
Jesus.
It was by DQ as well. Crush defeated HBK in a qualifier to a draw. Actually, sorry, he didn't beat him. He fought him to a draw. And then Mr. Hughes beat Kamala. So those
lineup.
are quite the qualifiers right there.
What a lineup. And here I thought, like, I have a couple of thoughts about the positioning of certain performers on this tournament. And I have a lot of kind of theories as to why they structured it the way that they did. Looking at this tournament on paper, the lineup that you just said, it's definitely a mishmash. You've got the technical finesse of a Bret Hart. You've got the Big Bruiser and Mr. Hughes. I mean, you've got Jim Duggan in there. The lineup is varied and vast, and so there's a little bit of something for everybody. And I do have a lot to get into when we talk about these individual matches throughout the show.
Yeah, so there was a dark match right before the pay-per-view. Papa Shango defeated Owen Hart in a USWA heavyweight title match. This is when they were transferred like Memphis, Jerry Lawler's Memphis and WWF. So they were doing cross promotion there. Now, one thing that was very weird, and this is going to be a theme throughout the night, the announcers kept saying, whoever wins this tournament should be #1 contender for the WWF Championship. Which is very interesting when we talk about other stuff that happens this night.
Oh, now I'm starting to put the pieces together. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So we get to the first match, Razor Ramon versus Bret Hart. This is Razor's first year in the company. This is a rematch from Royal Rumble 1993 for a WWF Championship, which Bret won. And then Razor Ramon recently at this time feuded with 1-2-3 Kid after the upset. And then a month later would turn face. Also, I've noticed too, Bret was using his first solo entrance music. So the iconic guitar riff, it's not that one. It's like drums.
What the?
And then back in October 12th, 1992, so this is like 6 or so months before, Bret Hart beat Ric Flair for the WWF Championship in Saskatoon. First ever WWF Championship. Lost the belt to Yokozuna in WrestleMania 9. And this whole tournament was created just to put him over so he can get to the next level. So what did you think about this match, Diaz?
So Darkside Bird Real over here is asking, what does a turn face mean? That means a face turn. So let's just say, for an example, and I'll get to the match real quick. If you are a good guy, that means you're a face, a baby face, and everybody should like you. And if you're a bad guy, you'd be what is called a heel, or a bad guy, or a villain. So when we were talking about turning face, turning heel, that's what we're talking about. And so back to the match. So Bret and Razor is one of these matches where if you've been in enough professional wrestling shows, you'll start to notice patterns. And one of the biggest patterns, and one of the things that I've carried with me since I've been professionally wrestling, is a thing that Kurt Angle said to me when I was about to go out and have myself a championship match. It was the opening match of the show. And Kurt Angle, he was a guest on the show, and he stood at the go position, at the gorilla position, like right before you walk out to the crowd. And he was seeing me getting, G'd up and hopping around, getting my heart rate up and getting warmed up and ready to go out. And he goes, "Oh, you're the opening match." And I said, "Yes, sir. I am." And he goes, "That's probably one of the most important matches on the entire card outside of the main event." And I was like, "That's awesome. That's all right, cool." He's like, "Because you're setting the tone. You're setting the tone for the rest of the show. Everything, you cannot have a bad first impression. And when a promoter puts you on the first part of the show, they know that you're going to set the standard, and that everybody's going to have to, meet or exceed what you have going on out there." So having Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon, you've got two stars with equity behind their names. You know that they're going to go out bell to bell and perform at the highest level. Immediately, you could see Bret and Razor going for the tie-up, and Razor going for the shortcut, pulling the hair. Okay, the quintessential. I know that Razor Ramon, and coming back to the conversation that we just had with Dark Side Bird Real, we automatically know who the heel is, and that's Razor Ramon. And so you automatically know, all right, so I'm going to boo this guy. So anybody that has never seen any bit of WWE could know, hey, man, if somebody's pulling on my hair, I get pretty pissed off. So seeing Razor go for the hair pull at the very beginning of the match sets the standard. That's setting the standard. And one thing about Bret Hart that I really do like when he's performing in the ring is the fact that he treats it like an actual competition, like an actual fight. He doesn't go out there and needlessly do gymnastics. He takes his opponent to task, and his objective is to win the match, not do a stunt show. And so I always appreciate that type of workmanship inside the ring. So, when it comes down to it, seeing Bret Hart and Razor Ramon doing their thing in the ring all this time back in the day, knowing all of the work that they've put in after the fact, it really shows like there is this innate talent that you have when you can put together a really good match with somebody that is really competent and knows what they're doing. Bret Hart and Razor Ramon, know exactly what they're doing in the ring.
Yeah, and Bret wins by pinfall 10 minutes and 25 seconds by reversing the back suplex from the top rope into a pin. Now, you'll notice too in Bret's matches tonight, he'll not win with any of the sharpshooter, which is a very interesting thing because they're trying to put a little bit more three-dimensional to him.
Yes, they're adding some new tools to the toolkit. They're showing that he's resourceful. They're showing that he can do anything in order to get that victory. And one of the things that I would like to point out is because of watching this match, there was one pinfall in particular that Bret Hart did. He did a side headlock takeover. And so for people that don't know what it is, let's just say I'm grabbing DSP in a headlock and I'm about to give him a noogie. So instead of giving him the noogie, I would drop down to my knees, set the table, and then throw them over my back, kind of like a judo throw. They would be sprawled out on their back, and then I would hold their head in the noogie position and lying on top of them. Once you throw them down, Bret Hart, he did this little deal where he kind of repositioned his hips and spread out his legs, and it made a pinfall. I was watching that match, and I was taking notes, and I saw that, and I went, I'm going to do that in my next match. And lo and behold, I just had a match a weekend ago, and I employed that tactic in my match. And it was so cool to be able to kind of get these ideas from watching these old shows.
Yeah, and it's amazing how this show also influenced the future with, let's say, you're talking about with In Yours and other wrestlers as well. And this is also another special time. So you had 1-2-3 Kid, Sean Waltman, come into the company. You had Diesel, Kevin Nash, coming into the company. So take a guess at what happened in this pay-per-view in this month.
All
guess what
future
clique
Hall of
formed?
Famers right there. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
The clique formed. Kevin Nash, Sean Waltman, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. They all started around this time after Hogan left.
And it's all in who you know. And that's why if you're in this industry, if you're doing this thing, it'd be wise, even if you're doing business with people you don't like, you gotta keep that aggro to yourself, because you never know who you're gonna see on the way up. You don't know who's in whose ear. And so you always want to be malleable to do business, because it's all in the people that you know. And Shawn Michaels was notorious. He was a notorious troublemaker back in the day, but he was insulated by the clique, and he knew that he was that damn good to where he can get away with doing that type of stuff. So it's interesting to see the beginnings of these future Hall of Famers' careers. And who would have thought that the camaraderie between all of these people not only flourished in WWF, but also spread its tendrils all the way over to WCW with the NWO and everything that happened with the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah, especially the new generation is going to lead into a different generation that's going to define WWF and WCW as well, which we'll get into a little bit in this pay-per-view review. But next up, we have a recap of Mr. Hughes and Giant Gonzalez taking out The Undertaker and Paul Bearer, and then he steals the urn, which then leads into Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes, the Battle of the Misters.
I have the same note. I'm LOLing at the two Mr. names.
We have Mr. Perfect, who just turned face around 1992 Survivor Series to team with Randy Savage against Ric Flair and Razor Ramon. He was managed by Bobby Heenan, but he was dropped as a manager. Heenan goes against Perfect all night. And to me, I'm just saying this, certain people don't work well as a face. So like The Miz, Mr. Perfect, they're better as heels, especially a cocky heel. And of course, Mr. Perfect is the father of Joe Hennon, otherwise known as Michael McGillicuddy, then Curtis Axel. And then on one of the first episodes of WWF Raw, he beat Ric Flair in a on Raw in a loser leaves WWF match, which Rick would go back to WCW as he felt he should be in the main event more consistently and felt like he wasn't being used to his full potential. And then Mr. Hughes, I'm sorry, but he does nothing for me. There's no appeal. Like, he's a big guy, I get that, but I don't like the work rate, his wrestling, his promos. And then when you team him up with Giant Gonzalez, it makes it seem even worse somehow.
Now that's a nightmare blunt rotation.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a difference between a big man and an athletic big man. Let's say Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bigelow is an excellent, excellent example of being a big man but being athletic while doing it.
Yeah, and during this, Bobby the Brain Heenan does a play-by-play, just like John Madden in football, where he's tracking Mr. Perfect Spit, but he draws something that looks like a dick, though. And what would you say about this Mr. Hughes versus Mr. Perfect match?
So, like I said, I did not see this show. It was actually before my time, so this was all new to me. I didn't even know who won the tournament, or maybe I memory hold it. So when I saw that Mr. Hughes was already in the ring with the jobber entrance, I was like, oh, okay, I guess he's getting squashed. But that overlay that you were talking about, that brain scan stuff that they had on the screen, it did not work for me. I had no idea what he was doing. I didn't have any idea what he was drawing on there. It just looked bad. And I was like, I sure hope he doesn't do that again. And then it ended up being like a thing that they've done throughout the show, and I wasn't a fan of that. But I would have to say, when it comes to Mr. Hughes, he does move. He has some explosive energy, but he can't control himself. There was a couple of times where Mr. Perfect had to rein him in. Mr. Perfect is probably one of the best people to work a guy like Mr. Hughes, and the reason I say that is because Mr. Perfect, one of his strengths was making other people look strong. And so, of course, he made Mr. Hughes look like $1 million, bouncing all over the ring for him, making him look like a monster. And a lot of it too, if you wanna really know the truth about it, if you want to see the quintessential big man heat on somebody, if you just give him a couple of stomps and then stand there, admire your work, and be big, that's all you have to do. Some of these people overcomplicate it. You want to have the big guy be slow. You want to have the big guy be methodical. You want to have him not give the action that the fans want. So then when Mr. Perfect comes back with his offense, it's a lot more explosive. It's a lot more dynamic. It's all very intentional. And I mean, this is exactly the kind of match that gets missed if you only remember like surface level nonsense. You know, the match really had a plan. They knew what they were doing going into it. They were playing to the strengths. They were hiding the weaknesses. You know, Mr. Hughes, he's heavy, he's a big guy, and he did his job. You know, Mr. Perfect, he bumps all over the ring for him, makes him look like $1 million. The comeback is timed pretty well. You don't get too bored with Mr. Hughes stomping him out. And one of the things that I always appreciate when it comes to like a big man match is when they finally get the big man off their feet. So if you're out there with a Mr. Hughes and you immediately just knock him down right off rip at the beginning of the match, think about it like 2K when you're playing 2K. You can't hit him with your finish right off the jump. You kind of have to wear him down a little bit for it. So I always appreciate it when there's a big man in a pro wrestling match and they save that big first like flat back bump towards the end, or when they actually work for it and when it actually means something. Chekhov's gun. You were talking about how Mr. Hughes was using the urn on The Undertaker and Paul Bearer. So they introduced it in Act 1, and that did lead to the finish. It was a DQ. Mr. Hughes was getting overwhelmed. He used the urn, if I'm not mistaken. And
in front of the ref?
Yep, and it spared him too. There's a thing that promoters will like to do sometimes, and that's protecting somebody in a loss. You don't want to have Mr. Hughes be weak by, losing to Mr. Perfect. So a way to kind of get around that is to have a foreign object implemented so that it's not what people call a clean finish. So he could always say, as Mr. Hughes, well, he didn't beat me. I may have lost, but he didn't beat me, and so that'll kind of give him a little bit of heat if he wants to come back to it.
Yeah, and also during the match, there was a picture-in-picture of Bret saying who he would prefer to fight, Mr. Perfect or Mr. Hughes, which is going to play into something else later on, where he talks about Mr. Perfect being a little bit more technical sound.
I love that promo too. Yeah. Me and Gene was stirring up some shit during that interview. I was geeking on that.
Yeah, so Mr. Perfect wins by DQ in 6 minutes and 2 seconds. Like you said, Perfect was hit with the urn in front of the ref. To me, this is the worst match of the night. Next up, we had an interview with Yokozuna, which, if you think about it, so if anyone doesn't know, Yokozuna is actually part of the Rock and Roman Reigns family, which we'll get into later. But he was a Samoan playing a Japanese person, which, we'll get into that later on. What did you think about that interview?
So now knowing the things that I know now, like as a kid, obviously I was like, he's a foreigner. I don't like him. Blah. There was a little something sinister behind that. Propaganda, when none of us are immune to propaganda. And the more I watch WWE, the more I see that it's a propaganda machine for its own brand. And it was a different time back then. The evil foreigner was an integral part of WWE programming, but not just like pro wrestling programs. It was, prominent throughout all of media. So it doesn't really age very well, but it definitely got the point across, which I guess is the point, which kind of shows how pro wrestling is so ingrained into, the modern day zeitgeist, because literally pro wrestling is just a mirror to the real world. It's just showing how, if I were to present a sumo wrestler, this is how they would look. This is how it would sound. They literally had this like music in the background that was like,
yeah.
So yeah, it was a Saturday morning cartoon, American like villain propaganda style stuff. But the kids crying after the bonsai drop, bro. So they were showing Yokozuna hitting this bonsai drop, right? And they were showing kids crying in the seats, bro. That's money right there. You got to get them to believe.
Yeah. The more emotionally attached they are, the more money you're going to make.
Because people buy into the emotion of it. And that's the beauty of wrestling. You watch it, you turn your mind off, you allow it to, for lack of a better term, propagandize you, and, everybody's in on it.
So next up, we had Bam Bigelow versus Jim Duggan round 1 match. So Bam Bam was in WWF starting in 1987 to 88. He left for Japan. Remember, he was a face at this time. Returns in 1992 as a heel. And then he beat Big Boss Man at 1993 Royal Rumble. And then Duggan has been there since 87. However, 93 would be his last year in WWF. And then eventually in 94, he was signed with WCW, just like a lot of people from this pay-per-view. And he was also the very first ever Royal Rumble winner in 88. And of course, he was charismatic. He would spam the chats of USA, USA, and ho, while carrying a 2x4. And it was funny because his first feud in 1993 was versus Yokozuna, as he was defending America's honor. And a lot of people think Hulk Hogan was the first person to beat Yokozuna, but it was actually Jim Duggan. So February 6th, WWF Superstars, they had a match. Now, this is not a traditional match. Stipulation was, if Jim knocked Yoko off his feet, he would automatically win, which he did. And then at this point, no one had done that except for Randy Savage in the Royal Rumble, knock him off his feet. And then after Jim Duggan won, he was attacked by Yokozuna, put him on the shelf for 4 months, and then he would come back to face Lex Luger on a UK tour, and then come back to the King of the Ring. And what did you think of Bam Bigelow versus Jim Duggan?
So Jim Ross, who was on the call for this pay-per-view, probably would have said it best. This one is going to be bowling shoe ugly, because Bam Bam and Jim Duggan are both brawlers. They're both big guys. It's not going to be pretty. There's not going to be a lot of finesse in it. And this actually goes to show the breadth of variety that you're going to see in this tournament, because you had the competency of a Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon, and now you're going to get the rough and tumble, brawling styles of a Bam Bam Bigelow and Jim Duggan, who are not known, for their acrobatics or for their finesse, but for their hard-hitting in-ring acumen. Bam Bam, I'm going to say, was low-key the stealth MVP of this tournament. For a big man, Bam Bam moves like a cruiserweight. He's nimble on his feet. Everything he does looks impactful and quick. The way that he moves. Bret Hart obviously shines in this tournament, but if it's going to be like a 1 and 1A, both Bret Hart and Bam Bam Bigelow putting in impressive work here in this tournament tonight. Unfortunately, it was an affair where Hacksaw Jim Duggan was literally slipping on a banana peel the whole match. Like, the only way that Bam Bam could get offense or get back on top of Duggan was if Duggan did something and Bam Bam moved out the way. It seemed like Duggan couldn't get out of his own way. He kept falling into the trap. He didn't look very smart going into this fight, and it cost him because Bam Bam put Duggan away. Nothing really to note here. There was a wasn't there like a promo, or wasn't there? No, this is something going on later in the match, later in the program. But the only real notes that I had was that Duggan was really selling them ribs pretty good. But again, it was just because he was hoisted by his own petard. Duggan wasn't doing very smart in this match, and Bam Bam took advantage of it.
Yeah, so this only went 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Bam Bam wins by pin. Now, I noticed in the sign in the crowd, there was a sign that says Bam Bam Bigelow, which is interesting.
Body shaming.
And then, yeah, it's a huge sign too. Major difference, this is my note, major difference between this and the Mr. Hughes match. Crowd excited, fun match. Both competitors were working hard, working the crowd. I enjoyed this a lot more than Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, Bam Bam's one of those guys. They make more sense the older you get when you have a little bit more of a nuanced appreciation of pro wrestling. He's got the monster look, but he's mobile. He can work rougher. He can work with the finesse guys. His series of matches with Shawn Michaels were incredible. He could be a great wall for a babyface to knock down without just standing there and being large, just like Mr. Huge. And, he's a big reason why this tournament works, because you got a bruiser coming through and just wrecking shit throughout the entirety of the tournament. Well, bits and pieces of it, but we'll get to it. There's always a value in a big guy like Bam Bam who can move. There's always a bigger value. There's a bigger value with somebody that understands the escalation of it all, because he built up his repertoire to, keep it simple, but at the same time, keep it effective.
Exactly. Bam Bam is one of my favorites from this era. And then next up, we have an interview. So Smoking Guns, Bart and Billy Gunn with the Steiners. And not only that, they're being interviewed by Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster himself.
Wow. What a lineup.
And they say this is their first King of the Ring pay-per-view that the Smoking Guns competed in, even though this is the very first ever King of the Ring pay-per-view. You can see how far along Billy Gunn has come on the mic. He was kind of nervous here. He wasn't doing bad, but it was kind of like generic. Scott Steiner gives his insight that if he hits the finisher on one of his opponents, he's going to beat him. And then we have Rick Steiner classic energy promo with the dog barks from the Dog-Faced Gremlin.
Crazy to think.
What'd you think of that promo?
Crazy to think. Like, I heard the Scott Steiner voice in the promo, and I immediately got PTSD from when he dropped me from 15 feet out of the air off the top rope. But very cool to see like this fresh-faced Scott Steiner, a fresh-faced JBL, Billy Gunn. It's so quaint to see like these superstars, the names that you've seen growing up throughout the years, getting their first opportunities on camera and in front of an audience, and not really knowing themselves and seeing the nervousness and seeing the butterflies. And that was the thing that I kind of took away from it. Like knowing that this was such a long time ago, like it is such a time capsule, and it's crazy to see how young these guys looks. As I mean, obviously compared that we see them now, but like it's so crazy to me to think that.
Yeah. And next up, we have our final first round matchup, and I'm sure PWR's penis will be up for this one.
Oh boy.
We have Lex Luger versus Tatanka. Now, the interesting part, both are undefeated. And in 1992, Lex was in WCW, loses the world title to Sting, asked for his release and was granted. However, he does not immediately sign with WWF. Do you know who he signed with?
No.
The WBF.
What the?
So that is the World Bodybuilding Federation, which is owned by Vince McMahon.
I do remember this. Holy shoot. That was
So
memory
this
hold.
if anyone remembers the XFL, this is another failed project, and it was going on the same time as the steroid investigation.
Uh-oh. Do you think
Yeah.
that's why they kind of branched and did that, hoping that maybe they were like, well, we're not actually doing steroids for the wrestling. We're doing steroids for this bodybuilding thing, which is completely different.
Well, the other thing too is he had a no compete clause for wrestling, but not for bodybuilding.
Crazy how that litigation and can work.
Yeah, so he would make an appearance at WrestleMania 8 on air interview with Bobby Heenan, who would go on to manage him. Then Lex Luger had a motorcycle accident, which stopped him from doing an appearance for the WFB. And when he recovered, the WFB was out of business. So Vince shut it down.
Grand opening,
While being
grand closing.
investigated. And then at 1993 Royal Rumble, he would debut as the narcissist Lex Luger. Before the match, he would have mirrors in the ring and do poses in front of them, staring at himself.
I was thinking about how it would be a shame if somebody got thrown into one of those mirrors, and we'll definitely get into that because didn't they start off this match hot?
Well, yeah, because that never happens in wrestling, right? They would bring in the topic of his motorcycle accident in a storyline, saying he had a metal plate inserted in his forearm and that he would use it to knock people out and win with it. So at the time, WWF President Jack Tunney would start requiring Lex to cover up his forearm during matches, as it was considered a foreign object. And his debut feud was against Heenan's previous client, Mr. Perfect. And Heenan described Lex as beyond perfect. And then Lex would defeat Perfect at WrestleMania 9. And then WrestleMania 9 press conference, which I found this was really weird, because this would have led to King of the Ring. Lex knocked out Bret Hart, leading the house show matches. And then Tatanka debuted in 1992. Going into King of the Ring, he was on an undefeated streak. Same with Lex. WrestleMania 9, he would challenge Shawn Michaels for the IC title, winning by countout, because they didn't want to take the title off HBK, but also didn't want Tatanka to lose.
Just like we were talking about protecting people in the finish. Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes you question why the match was made in the first place. Then again, you could say this same thing with Lex with this match right here. He would go on to lose his undefeated streak 4 months later in a gimmick that does not age very well. What can you tell us about this match?
So you said that your least favorite match of the night was Mr. Hughes and Mr. Perfect.
And Perfect.
I'm going to say that this was my least favorite match of the whole tournament. And because it went the entirety of the 15 minutes that was allotted for the match. However, to give it some grace, it actually served a very good purpose. However, I just wish that it was done with a different set of competitors, maybe a different set of competitors that I wouldn't have mind watching a 15-minute match of, because a lot of it was standing around and admiring your work. And like I said earlier, there's nothing really wrong with that. Of course, there was the equity in that match, the fact that both Mr. Perfect and Tatanka were both undefeated. But when it came to the 15-minute match, it didn't really. It served the purpose, and that purpose was to get them both out of the tournament, so that we didn't have to have another match in the tournament. They did spend a lot of time getting that armband on Lex Luger. For some reason, to me, this felt like an eternity. The entire segment leading up to the actual match, and then it finally popping off, and then going all the way to the 15-minute mark, and then disqualifying them both. It was, again, like we talked about earlier, a way to protect both of them because they both went the distance. Both of them technically kept their streaks intact, and it served the purpose of not of removing an extra match from the show. It was already a packed show. You had the tournament, you had a couple of championship matches, you even had a tag match in there. So I feel like the execution of the match served its purpose, but I just wish it was with two different guys.
And I agree with you. So the 15 minutes was just the matchup. And then you add the entrances, you add the stalling. It felt like an eternity. Now, the funny thing is, so a month later, Lex would replace Hulk Hogan, who leaves, as America's hero, even do a countrywide Lex Express bus tour like someone running for office. And as soon as he's a face, he's allowed to use a steel plate in his forearm without covering it up and no consequences. It's funny how there's different rules there. And because there's a draw, Bam Bigelow presents another obstacle for someone to overcome, as he's going to be fresh and they will be tired. The question is, was it the right call?
Absolutely, because Bam Bigelow, going into the next round, not having to go through the ravages of another match, keeps him buffed, keeps him fresh going into the next part of the tournament. And if you were going up against him, that would definitely serve an advantage. So you got to think of it, if you were to win this tournament, and if you were to go on to the finals and win the whole thing, you would definitely have a better chance if you didn't have to go through, 3 matches of the tournament, like towards the finals?
Exactly.
Yikes.
In one night, too.
It was a lot. It was the smart thing to do all around. I just wish that it wasn't Bret and Tatanka that had to do it.
Yeah. So next up, we get Mean Gene Okerlund interviewing Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, where he stirs the shit between them.
Yeah, he was really kicking up some shit between them. I was like, what the?
Yeah, they start arguing. Even Bret saying his dad's Stu Hart beat Mr. Perfect's dad, Larry the Axe Head. Bret reminds Mr. Perfect that he beat him at SummerSlam. Perfect says he owes him one. And then Perfect goes to shake Bret's hand, but psychs him out. So, did you like this interview?
So, a lot of people sometimes get upset at the modern day WWF because everything that they say on camera is scripted. Everything that they say is timed out. Everything that they say has to be approved because of situations like this. And it's really interesting to see how far the WWF product has evolved as a product, because there was a couple of production hiccups now and then throughout the show. One of them including having the announcers talk over when the ring announcer was introducing somebody to the ring. Another thing of this is I feel like this promo that they had, this interview that they had in the back, it started to kind of peter out. And the fact that Mean Gene was stirring up the shit between both of them was the main takeaway that I had from it. But there was a point where I was sitting there going, they may be holding on to this for a beat too long. It got the point over, but maybe a little bit tighter production would have kept me from thinking that way. Or maybe I wasn't paying attention to the right things. One thing that I want to point out is that Bret Hart's hand was taped up going into this next match. Let me ask you a question, because I didn't see this at the time and I'm not too familiar. Was that hand injury that Bret Hart had in the first match, Was that a legitimate injury, or was that just something that they added to the story to make it seem that Bret Hart was more vulnerable going along in this tournament? Meanwhile, you got Bam Bam Bigelow over here, fresh as a daisy.
So Brett's going to have a very bad day here with the injuries. So the night before, he legitimately had an ankle injury against Bob Backlund, wrestled 30 minutes with that ankle injury, came into King of the Ring. The finger thing was legit.
Mm.
And then later on, he's going to hurt his leg. And then in the last segment, he's going to bruise his ribs. So this is a very bad night for his body.
Yeah, Bret Hart went through it that night. That was one of the last notes that I took through this watch through. That Bret went through hell, and I didn't even know about that earlier stuff. So yikes.
Yeah. And then we get to the match. It goes right into it. Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. Rematch from SummerSlam 1991. Funny thing is, so he's now had back-to-back rematches from the last 2 years. So 1991, Bret beat Mr. Perfect for the IC title. Bret was a face and Mr. Perfect was a heel. Now they're both faces. Bret has a hand injury, like you said, along with his ankle injury. What did you think of this match?
So I think this is also indicative of a larger zoomed out perspective on the entirety of the tournament. I feel like, to give grace to the previous match, the 15-minute draw between Lex Luger and Tatanka, I feel like it was almost intentional that they picked those performers and they picked the fact that they needed to go the full length of the 15 minutes of the match and intentionally bring the crowd down. So you don't want to, you got to think of in the entirety of the show written out in the same way that you would write out a match. You want to have something that they can invest themselves in at the front. You've got the heel working over the baby's working up from underneath, and then it goes to the finish, whatever it is. Having this tournament not be so samey and not have people get bored watching it is to treat the entire show as if it was its own match. So you want to start off hot. Obviously, you got Bret and Razor. You want to kind of bring them down a little bit before you bring them back up. And so to that end, I feel like the function of having a Tatanka versus Lex Luger match go that long and then bring the crowd down to make them appreciate the technical and the finesse and the stylings of a Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. Once I knew that it was going to be Bret and Mr. Perfect, I knew that it was going to be the match of the night, and they didn't disappoint. There was this one spot, though. Bret Hart, he kind of took a little fall off the apron, but he was slingshotted to the guardrail. That shit looked like it sucked. And going back to what we were talking about, Bret Hart was not having a good night. The way that he hit that guardrail, it sucked. I unfortunately had the pleasure of having my elbow banged up against one of the feet of a guardrail. Right on the funny bone, dude. It was one of the worst things I've ever felt in my entire life. There was this second spot, and it scares me to death, and I hate when people do this, but a lot of these Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan, Mr. Perfect technical wrestler styles love doing it. Drew Gulak also loves doing this move. There's this suplex, and for people that don't know what a suplex is, it's essentially you grab the guy in a front chancery, you throw their arm over your shoulder, and you kind of throw them over your head behind you, and then you land with them. It's called a suplex, but other people will call it a souffle. So Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in this match decide on doing this suplex, but they're really close to the ropes. And essentially all that the other guy is doing is taking a backwards flip, holding a guy upside down, both of you flipping, and hoping that the other guy falls and lands on his legs so that you guys can both take the best fall that you can probably take on the floor. And falling on the floor sucks. All right. When you have the padding on the floor, it's there for decoration. You can still fall on that padding on the floor and there's concrete underneath. So those were the two things that really stuck out. Three things, actually. It was an excellent match, capable talent, very snug, very smart, but very reckless also. There was a lot of just wild stunts in there that I'm sure did not help later on throughout the night. But, that was the type of things that they would like to do in order to get people invested in their matches.
Yeah, to me, this is my favorite match of the night. Much better than their SummerSlam match. Mr. Perfect is upset after the match, but ends up shaking Bret's hand. Now, one thing I will say, though, he wins by pinfall reversal inside cradle, but the match previous was Tatanka and Lex Luger. What was the result of that match?
Tatanka and Lex Luger, that was a draw, so they were both eliminated.
Yeah, in 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
So this match went 18 minutes and 56 seconds.
And you know what? Crazy to hear that, because it definitely did not feel like 18 minutes. You were watching it and it felt like a brisk walk. Crazy to say that, like 15 minutes of a Lex Luger Tatanka match can feel like an hour, but you've got 18 minutes of Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, and it's like a 5-minute romp.
Yeah. So the next thing, now we're talking about the character here, not the person portraying the character. We have an interview, Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. I love Jimmy Hart, by the way.
Yes.
Hulk Hogan, it starts up with a close-up of Jimmy Hart's Hulk Hogan jacket. He calls Hogan the greatest American hero, perhaps the biggest hero of the world. And then Hogan points at his palm and talks about where the Hulkamaniacs and kids are and where his power lies. Very Ultimate Warrior-esque. Now, this is interesting. So, Jimmy Hart says, this man has red, white, and blue running through his veins, and he was born in the USA. You know why that's so familiar?
I wonder why.
Those are his WCW entrance lyrics. That's how the song actually starts, too.
That's a deep cut there. And I think Jimmy Hart was the one that actually wrote that song.
He did.
Look at that.
And
yes.
then there's a promo about how America is strong. It's in the heartland of America, and he's going to destroy Yokozuna. Was this a good Hulk Hogan promo?
Well, if you've seen one Hulk Hogan promo, you've seen them all, but he knows what works, and a Hulk Hogan promo works. Everybody knows what a Hulk Hogan promo is. Everybody can recite a Hulk Hogan promo. So by all definition, it served its purpose because it was memorable and it got people hyped up for the match, which unfortunately didn't match the energy of that promo. I have no good notes about this Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna match.
Yeah, and you'll notice too, around this time, steroid investigation, Hulk Hogan kind of slimmed down. So he's not taking the juice, he's not taking the steroids. So you're seeing a more lean Hulk Hogan, and they're talking about how he's quicker, he's faster
That's
now.
right. They mentioned that in the commentary, that he intentionally dropped weight so he can be faster. Oh my God, I'm putting these all together. What the?
And then, if anyone doesn't know, Yokozuna, again, is part of Roman Reigns and Rock's family. He's cousin with the Rocks, first cousins removed with Roman, and during this time, WWE didn't care about getting backgrounds down, so they put Yokozuna, real name Rodney, Samoan in a Japanese character. And around this time, it was always America versus everyone. Didn't matter where they're from, except for Bret. All foreigners we looked at as heels, eventually turning face. He would be the first one from his family to win the World Championship, first Samoan to win it. Later on to follow in his footsteps would be The Rock, Roman Reigns, and there's two more people, a male and a female world champion. Who do you remember who they are?
All-star lineup. I'm drawing a blank here, and
They're recent.
I'm feeling like an asshole. What was that?
They're very recent.
Naomi?
No, she's married into the family.
What the? Oh my God, you're really putting me on the spot here. I'm drawing a blank. What is it?
So the female one is Nia Jax.
What the?
So she's part of the family. And then who's the male wrestler that recently won the world title from that family?
I'm gonna say that one guy. What does he say? He says something over and over.
4 letters.
I can't remember. Somebody in the chat, somebody just remind me who that guy is. It's 4 letters, isn't it? It's 4 letters. And I think it's one word. I think I need to see it in the chat. Somebody just fire it off. Not Dom. We're talking about Jey Uso, aren't we?
We are. Oh, and how bad is that new entrance music for the Usos?
Bro, that shit sucks. Just give it back to the Jey Uso
Oh
song.
my god.
It sucks, bro. Oh no.
I have a very special person in our chat. Well, my chat. Mr. PWR World Official.
Let's go.
And he says, tell us the history lore. Remember, PWR, this could have been you.
This could have been you. And yep, now he's just in the chat. Big ups, PWR. Thanks for hanging out. Everybody knows that this corner of the internet is where to be. We've got all the heavy hitters. It's a red carpet affair. If you're not here, brother, I don't know what to tell you, because we are celebrating the peaks of our youth. 93, King of the Ring.
And even PWR shows up.
Insane. Very cool.
So going on, Yokozuna was also the first of the family to win an individual title, first Samoan as well. He was the first of his family and Samoan to win the Royal Rumble. He debuted in main event WrestleMania 9, dominated the Royal Rumble, last eliminated Randy Savage, and then for some reason in storyline, after beating Bret Hart for the world title at WrestleMania 9, remember, he's a big guy, so he gets tired fast, challenges Hogan to a championship match on the fly, on the spot, then loses it within seconds, and he's getting his rematch tonight in the heartland of America. And Yoko comes out first, which is funny because typically the champion comes out last, but it's Hulk Hogan. And whatever you think about Hulk Hogan, the character himself, he is majorly over. Huge pop. Everybody loves him. Kids dressed in yellow and red. And then, very interesting, a lot of photographers around ringside for the Japanese media. I wonder how that would work out.
Very interesting.
So what did you think about this match, Lore?
So, you know, when I said that Lex Luger and Tatanka was probably one of my least favorite matches on the card, well, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to revise it actually, because this Hogan-Yokozuna match was not it for me. The notes that I took were far and few between because I was actually distracted. I was on my phone watching all of this, but funny that you mentioned that there was a lot of paparazzi out there. The production behind this match and what we talked about before in protecting somebody in a loss actually comes into play over here. So there's a lot of different dynamics that are going on in this match, and they serve a lot of purposes and they serve a lot of masters. So what you were talking about with the paparazzi coming out with Yokozuna, that actually feeds into the stereotype of the Japanese culture, which lends itself to the Saturday morning cartoon feel of WWF and the route that they were taking before they pivoted away from Hulkamania and all of that. There was a really nice production note that I had. There was a shot of the iconic monitors for the entranceway, and you know how they had that transition.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, it was classic. I think we all really enjoyed seeing that. And they did this shot, and I took a note about this. I really appreciate the production side of these shows. Even the modern day stuff. I'm a huge fan of the drone shots. I love how the stages are set. I love the color theory behind pay-per-views and stuff. You could see the flashes of brilliance throughout the show when it comes to production side things that happen on the show. There was a shot of, I guess, Yokozuna coming out or Hulk Hogan coming out. And they had a shot of Yokozuna on the Tron behind him as Hulk Hogan was coming out to the ring. The way that it was shot, it looked very intentional, like they planned for it to happen. And I always like to take the time to appreciate those types of things. I really do like those types of things. So beyond that, I feel like it was a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of cloak and dagger shit in order to get this match to happen, because with the production of the paparazzi out there in the ring, one of the paparazzi ended up getting on the apron, trying to get the perfect shot, it would seem, but ended up shooting, and I'm using my air quotes very generously, shooting a fireball to Hulk Hogan, which in turn cost him the WWF Championship. And so I have a feeling that even though Hulk Hogan lost to Yokozuna, anointed him the new champion and such, Hulk Hogan was still protected because he didn't lose based off of his Yokozuna's merits. He lost because of a interference. And interesting to think that all this time later, in the 2010s, Dean Ambrose would have a similar situation to where he was about to hit, I forget who, but he was going to go hit somebody with a monitor, and it ended up blowing up in his face. So interesting to see how things that you've watched in the modern day may have actually already happened previously under different circumstances.
Now, I will say this about that photographer. He looked really, really out of place. He looked like a hippie, for one thing, with the Japanese media. He was like a cartoon character that was wearing a costume. He just stood right out. You know who that was too, by the way?
You know, that's crazy that you're asking me that, because Darkside Ranter over here on the YouTube platform is asking if I knew who that cameraman was. So I am unfamiliar, and I would love to know who was this cameraman.
That was Harvey Whippleman.
What the?
Yeah.
Wow.
So at the time he got dropped by Kamala, they were going to follow up with that, but they never did.
Interesting.
And then a month later, a certain manager would start managing Yokozuna after Hogan leaves. And Mr. Jim Cornette.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jim Cornette is probably one of the sharpest tongues in professional wrestling. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette sure as shit has a lot to say about pro wrestling. But if anything, you can't deny the contributions that Cornette has brought to this industry.
Now, earlier, we were talking about how throughout the night they kept saying, whoever wins the King of the Ring tournament should be the number one contender for the WWF Championship. And during this match, at the start, Savage on commentary says, people say Bret should have faced Hogan for the title, but Jack Tunney gave it to Yokozuna instead. Jim Ross says the same thing. And then also, Yoko beat Hogan with his own leg drop, too. Announcers say how Hulkamania is dead. Yoko attacks Hogan after the match, bonsai drop. And you see, very rarely, Hogan looking weak, too.
Yeah,
And
they
then,
had to stomp him out. They had to give him the extended vacation treatment.
Now, according to some people, that fucked finish was Hogan agreeing to do the job, but not be beaten cleanly. This was the last pay-per-view match under the WWF banner for Hogan. He would come back in 2002 under the WWE banner as part of the NWO stable. He would go on to wrestle selected matches after this, pulling out a sum, and finally finishing on the European tour on August 6th and leaving the company. Now, the funny part is that Bruce Pritchard said the European tour was supposed to be headlined with Hogan as the champion, which would mean that they had a plan to go into SummerSlam with Hogan defending the title. And the way they kept saying, whoever won the King of the Ring would be number one contender, makes Bret's claims make sense. Because he kept saying, oh, Hogan would do the job for me, and this and that. Hogan would start doing movie and TV projects, which would lead to him meeting Eric Bischoff and signing with WCW. And we went over again, WrestleMania 9, Yokozuna defeated Bret Hart, and then he defeated Hogan. And then Hogan goes on to beat, ended the show he ended WrestleMania 9 as champion. Then apparently, according to Bret Hart in his book, Hogan agreed to put Bret over at SummerSlam and drop the title to him. So the whole tournament was supposed to get Bret over to the next level, make him look like a superhero to get ready for the showdown at SummerSlam. And according to Bret Hart, after the pay-per-view started, Hogan went back on his word and told Bret the SummerSlam match wouldn't be happening because he was out of his league.
Huh.
And then after Hogan's loss to Yokozuna, Bret stormed into Hogan's locker room, proceeded to yell at Hogan, telling him off, calling him a piece of shit. He ended the rant by telling Hogan to go fuck himself and left.
Damn.
This would be the last pay-per-view/TV match of the Golden Era, as the next pay-per-view, SummerSlam, would start the new generation. Days of Hogan, Savage, Flair, Sid Justice, would be over, replaced by HBK, Bret Hart, Razor, Diesel, and more. And Yoko would go on to SummerSlam to face Lex Luger, America's new hero with a confusing ending. Do you remember the SummerSlam ending with Lex Luger versus Yokozuna?
If I saw it, I don't remember it.
So they had a WWF Championship match at SummerSlam, and Lex Luger won by countout. Everyone hoisted him on the shoulders.
And
The
they
balloons coming
celebrated
down.
like he won WrestleMania.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, so they had pictures of house shows before that they were going to air on TV with him with the WWF Championship. So they changed their mind at the last second. And then Yoko would go on to feud with The Undertaker, but eventually lose the title back to Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10. Now, one of the most confusing things I've ever seen was the next segment where Terry Taylor interviews Mr. Perfect for like 10 seconds, asking him if he's upset. Do you think this was necessary, this interview?
No, not at all. I even had a note. I was like, what is this all about? It just seems so weird. Maybe they were filling in some time. Maybe there was maybe there was another point to this, but I missed it. But it just seemed very out of place.
Yeah, it didn't fit in with all of this. But then we get another interview. We have Mean Gene interviewing HBK with Diesel, who just debuted. He says Diesel is his name for the first time, and Kevin Nash / Diesel was in WCW before this under the name Master Blaster, Steel, Oz, and Vinny Vegas.
Man, he was saddled with a lot of terrible gimmicks right there.
Yeah. Now, the funny thing about this interview here is that we had HBK making fun of Hulk Hogan after the loss, saying he's a dinosaur and get him out of here. Do you think this was WWF taking a shot at Hulk Hogan, knowing he's not going to be around anymore?
WWF is known to be very petty, and that's why I love it. I'm a very petty person myself, and I love getting my digs in where I can. And if there was anybody better to say this on camera, I wouldn't have put him above Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels probably said it on his own, but I'm sure he had the blessing of the office just to kind of reinforce the fact that now we're going in a new direction. Now we're looking towards younger talent. Now we're starting to build momentum and put some equity into some new talent. Yeah, they were really selling the idea that Hulkamania was over, that the era of Hulk Hogan was over, and that it was time for people like Shawn Michaels and Diesel and all of them to start climbing up the ranks in the WWF.
So next up, we have the Steiner Brothers and Smoking Gun 8-man tag versus Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers. What did you think of this match?
So I have a feeling that they wanted to get as many people on the show as they could, and this was one of the ways that they can do it. And this happens a lot on pro wrestling shows. You can see it right now with WrestleMania. They have this multi-tag team women's championship match where they just took all of the female tag teams and just threw them together in a match so that they can perform at WrestleMania. I feel like this is also something to kind of break up the monotony of having so many singles matches on the show. Again, you want to not bore your audience with the same stuff over and over again. So you're always going to get a different type of match throughout the show. You'll have a brawling match, a finesse match. You get the tag match, which is essentially just, we'll have a bunch of guys go out there and do some stuff. But what really kind of like boggled me, like really threw me for a loop was towards the very end. Like I have this one note that I wrote. Ted DiBiase, who I'm a huge fan of, the $1 Million Man, iconic entrance music, the $1 Million Belt, very good in the ring, like in-ring IQ, as smart as anybody that you'll see in the ring there. For whatever reason, dude, went for the $1 Million Dream and then just let it go. He had dude in the $1 Million Dream hold and then let go of it for whatever reason. And that actually led to the finish. He got rolled up in a small package, if I'm not mistaken. And for whatever reason, like Ted DiBiase, I think he would have been smarter than that. Whoever agented that match was completely misinformed in what they were trying to do out there. Like, why would he let go of a hold when he had the match well in hand and then it cost him in the end? It just made no sense to me.
Yeah, it was a very weird match, and it was only 6 minutes and 49 seconds. So this is a very interesting match for the future as well. So we have Billy Gunn, who would go on to be Mr. Ass in DX. I know PWR in the chat there loves Mr. Ass.
Hey, yo.
We have Scott Steiner go on to be Big Boppa Pump. We have Ted DiBiase would go on to WCW in the NWO. He also have his son carry on the DiBiase name, but not as well. IRS Erwin R. Shyster is Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy's dad. Samu is Jacob Fatu's dad. Fatu would go on to be Rikishi and also the Usos' dad. Afa, who's the manager tonight, is Roman Reigns' uncle and father of Namu, who is briefly in Legacy with Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. The Smoking Guns debuted May 15, 1993, WrestleMania 9. They were advertised as brothers, Billy and Bart. Steiner Brothers debuted December 1992, so just around the corner, after leaving WCW. Head Shrinkers debuted mid-1992, so you can see like a turnaround, 92-93. After leaving WCW, most of the teams point to the WWF. Money Inc., DiBiase and IRS formed February 7th, 1992. Going into 1993, Money Inc. were managed by Jimmy Hart before switch up managing Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Money Inc. won the titles from Natural Disasters October 13th, 1992, defending titles against Ultimate Warrior Randy Savage on Saturday night's main event, losing by countout. Started off 1993, they feuded with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, resulted in him calling Hulk Hogan in to team with him at WrestleMania for the tag titles. Wouldn't that be interesting if he won the tag titles and the world title at WrestleMania? And we have the thing that I found funny was this smoking gun shooting cap guns in the ring entrance. But yeah, imagine if Hogan got 2 titles in WrestleMania.
I would believe it. Going back to that 8-man, I had a note over here talking about the Head Shrinkers. They are very good in the ring, and it reminds me a lot of the modern day Usos. Just the way that they hit the tags and the crisp movements. I was a big fan of the Head Shrinkers. I was too young to appreciate them, but now, in my elder millennial years, I really can see the brilliance of a Head Shrinkers. And then also seeing Bart Gunn so young out there and still doing the shit in 2026, it's crazy to see.
Yeah, especially like the Head Shrinkers. Like you said, they move so well. They're such good workers. But also it's that time when they had that savage gimmick. And at that time, anyone that was Samoan had that savage gimmick, except for Yokozuna. And eventually that would wear off.
And they had this shot on Alpha, I think, on the floor, and he was just going, just acting a fool on the floor. And I was sitting there going, wow, well, okay, we're doing that.
Well,
cool.
I think it was around either 92 or 93 Survivor Series. You had the Wild Samoans teaming up with Bash and Booger. So you had them all disgustingly like eating turkey and all this food, and it's all over their bodies. And like, oh my God, this is disgusting.
I guess mission accomplished if they were going for that.
Yeah. Is Bash and Booger one of the worst gimmicks ever?
I mean, if we were to really...
In WWF.
Yeah, I would have to say that's up there. I was going to make some qualifiers, but there's just no way to polish that turd. The Bash and Booger gimmick, unfortunately, is a product of like that time of, that time when like garbage pail kids were a big thing, and like if it was disgusting, it was so counter and like, I get it, but that's kind of like the go away heat. That's like the change the channel stuff that I didn't really like when I watched it.
Yeah, it grossed me out just like, Capernell if she was wearing that.
Yikes.
But anyways, we get to a back... we have a back scene Mean Gene interview. Jack Tunney congratulates Yokozuna. Mr. Fuji brags about the win. And then we get to Shawn Michaels versus Crush IC title.
Oh my.
We have, first off, my note here. Crush has one of the most annoying theme songs I've ever heard.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
He's
And he
wearing the
is,
90s colors, yeah.
bro, he is so 90s. It hurts. Like everything about him just screams the 90s.
And then I was watching Raw, like the very first few episode. He was like Vince Russo. We kept going, "Hey, brah, what's going on, brah? Brah, what's going on, brah?" And I was like, "Oh my god, just stop, just stop." And Crush debuted in 1992. His big feud going into this was with Doink the Clown. And this was my favorite version of Doink the Clown. It was the evil clown,
Yes.
which made kids cry.
Agreed.
Because if anyone has never seen Doink the Clown as the evil clown, he would be all smiles, and then all of a sudden, a kid would smile and he would turn it on. He'd be like Pennywise and just get evil. It was awesome.
A time capsule of its time. And, you know, in this match, Shawn Michaels versus Crush for the IC title, going back to what we were talking about with production, for the intros for this match, unfortunately, the ringside announcers were talking over the in-ring announcer. So when they were introducing the competitors, if you notice in the modern day product, if the announcers start talking and then the ring announcer talks, the ringside announcer immediately stops. They never talk over the in-ring announcer and they never talk over pinfalls. Whenever a pinfall happens, they immediately call that pin. So it was kind of jarring to hear these announcers and, you know, announcers that have been doing it for a pretty long time, just stepping all over the intro, the ring announcer intro. So that was a note that I made for that match on the production side of things. They did talk about Hulkamania dying a lot throughout the rest of the show. And one of these matches, they were, you know, constantly going back to that point saying Hulkamania might be over, brother. I really did like the distraction that Diesel had that led to the cutoff. And I hate to keep sounding inside baseball when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I'll try to expand it a little bit more. A cutoff is essentially when the babyface gets caught up in the heel shenanigans, and then it goes to the heat where the heel starts beating down on the babyface until he makes his triumphant return. If you've seen one John Cena or Hulk Hogan match, you've seen them all. The way that they got to this cutoff was actually really good, and I plan on using that in my travels upcoming. So, like I was talking about before, the Bret Hart headlock takeover pin, I kind of yoinked that on one of my more recent shows. I plan on implementing some sort of Diesel style distraction for my next.
And then, so we have Crush losing to Shawn Michaels by pinfall, 11 minutes and 14 seconds. We have a double doink distracting Crush. Now this is very interesting. So this is when he first started using the super kick as a finisher, but he super kicks him in the back of the head instead of the front of the head.
Whoops.
And then we had, so Crush debuted in 1992, and he didn't last very long in WWE. HBK, though, he's been with WWF at this point since 1988.
Jesus.
And he just started his singles push. At this point, he turned on his partner, Marty Jannetty, the famous throw him through the barbershop window, breaking up the Rockers.
Iconic.
Then we had Mr. Perfect coin the name Heartbreak Kid. And then he'd be obsessed with his looks in a mirror. And he had, one of the hottest valets ever, Sensational Sherry, as his manager.
Preach. Amen, brother. Sensational
Who
Sherry,
also
one of my
sang his
favorites.
first theme song, too.
Sensational Sherry, we were talking about this on previous streams, is one of the top 3 managers of all time. She did her job very well. She did everything that she could to make her advocate look good. She always adopted their styles, like when she was doing her stuff with Harlem Heat, when she was doing her stuff with Shawn Michaels. Like, absolute top 3. Can't say enough good things about Sensational Sherry.
Well, the funny thing is, at one point, she was with Randy Savage, and he was doing the Macho King gimmick, and that was around the time he won the King of the Ring, but they never acknowledged it.
Interesting. Now, did you know that Shawn Michaels and Crush, they already had a King of the Ring qualifying match on Superstars? before the pay-per-view, but they were both eliminated by double countout, which is why their intercontinental match ended up on the card outside of the tournament.
Yeah, I think we went over that at the start.
Oh, that's where I got it from.
Yeah, so also the very first ever ladder match was not Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon
What the?
at WrestleMania 10. So in 1992, there was the first ever WWF ladder match, and also for the Intercontinental title between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Wow,
It was
Bret
a
Hart
house
name
show.
keeps coming up in here.
Yeah, but Shawn Michaels would lose to Bret Hart. Bret Hart would be the champion, the IC champion. Shawn would get the title off the British Bulldog, have several matches with Bret Hart, including a champion versus champion match at Survivor Series. He would lose that, but then he would lose Sherry, feud with his former tag team partner Marty Jannetty over the IC title, trading the championship. And then the rest is history. Shawn Michaels' legendary career.
And now,
So what do you think? What is one of your favorite Shawn Michaels matches?
Oh my God! So anything that Shawn Michaels and Mankind did in the WWF is up there, but the quintessential Shawn Michaels Undertaker match from WrestleMania, and a runner-up would be Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in Hell in a Cell, no doubt.
Yeah, I believe it was Shawn Michaels and Mankind at Mind Games in your house. And that's around the time they wanted a more aggressive style from Shawn Michaels, because before that, he was the pretty boy, he was the technician. So they're trying to do like a more rough style to him. Which I think at the Survivor Series, he lost to Sid right after that, too.
Crazy to think. Sid is now going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God, PWR just gave me a compliment.
What did
but
he
you know
say?
what? I'm not even going to read it.
What did he
You want
say?
me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead. Say it.
PWR official. Thank you for the compliment, by the way. Dashfire doing the heavy lifting.
Look at
it's
that.
Equal, though. We're both doing equal here.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter
See?
what they say in the chat because it all counts as an engagement, and we really do appreciate the company, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, not only on Dashfire's channel, but over here on this corner of the internet, YouTube, Kick, Twitch. Really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you for joining us for this inaugural edition of Smark Guys 3.0.
Yeah. And CPWR, we can get along. We don't have to be at each other's throats here.
We can all celebrate.
Yeah, and speaking of I can't speak. Wow. Okay, I get some more drinks here. At each other's throats. Finals, King of the Ring, Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow. What did you think of this match?
So, zooming out across the entirety of the tournament, I really appreciated the nuances of each match going into the finals. We're talking about Bret Hart not getting a break throughout the entirety of this tournament, going through hell with the hurt hand, with the hurt ankle, having to go through the entirety of the tournament where we had Bam Bam pretty much coast through it, you know, not even having to do the same amount of matches that Bret Hart had. So you had arrested, buffed up Bam Bam and Bret Hart, who is, you know, for all intents and purposes, just held together by duct tape at this point. He's been through hell throughout this entirety of this tournament, and I couldn't think of a better I couldn't think of a better finale to this tournament than having Bret Hart taking on the humongous Bam Bam Bigelow, who was also well rested and highly mobile. So, the big thing about Bam Bam is that he is deceptively fast. You know, we got a fresh Bam Bam, and Bret's vulnerable, and it makes for the classic David and Goliath match, but with a little bit of extra spice in there because, you know, not only does Bret Hart have to go up against somebody that is larger than him, but he's working at a disadvantage. The crowd was into it. There was immediate action. The one thing that I really do appreciate seeing a Bret Hart match is the hard buckles that he takes. When he gets thrown into the corner, I just don't know, like, if he just...
You can feel it.
Yeah, the sound and the way that his body get thrown into there. There's a very specific way. If I were to show somebody, if I were to show you, Dash, how to take a corner, it would be, a process. You would have to make sure that like you're protecting yourself, of course, but the way that he throws himself into those turnbuckles, and not just like his back, but like going face first into those turnbuckles. The only other person that I can kind of compare it to is a Dolph Ziggler, the way that he takes those buckles. It's absolutely devastating to see, and I have all the respect for somebody that can make it look that devastating and consistently do it at that level. There's like a lot of pinfalls in this match where nobody's hooking the leg, and that kind of irks me, because if I were to do a match and I had somebody like a Kurt Angle watching the match in the back, I would expect them to call me out on it and say, "Why didn't you hook the leg for the fall?" If you are exhausted from the match or from the tournament, I can see that, but you're trying to win the tournament. And I did make a note about that there were not enough hooking of the leg for the pinfalls. That was my one thing that I could kind of nitpick about, but it was a classic David and Goliath match. The second rope bulldog really raised the stakes. Kind of putting a little bit of extra oomph. You needed to do a little bit extra to put Bam Bam down. Bret Hart understands this. He's a very intelligent wrestling mind, so he's going to do things that matter. He's going to do things that make sense. There was this backdrop suplex thrown as a hope in this match that I really did appreciate. I always do appreciate a good backdrop suplex. So I also appreciate callbacks. There was a callback to the Razor match earlier at the beginning of the show that I really did appreciate that. And to the end of that match, I was invested hook, line, and sinker. Even though this thing happened, I don't know what, 20 some years ago, I was as invested as if I was watching it live. And like I said, I didn't see this growing up. I came in at around right after this time, probably when the new era was happening. So it was a testament how timeless that Bret Hart and Bam Bam Bigelow went out there and put in the work, because they had me invested, and I really enjoyed what they did with this tournament as a whole, and as a finals match in this tournament.
Yeah, so Bret wins this and the whole tournament by pinfall, 11 minutes and 18 seconds. We had a fake ending with Bam Bam winning because of a chair shot from Luna Vachon, which then resulted in them. It was very weird. It was a botched ring announcer saying he reversed the decision instead of continuing. And then Savage on commentary is like, "What? That means Bret wins." Like, I've been misinformed. So they restart the match. Bret wins every match by pinfall. He only attempted the sharpshooter once in all three matches, which was against Bam Bam, to show his character is three-dimensional.
Yes.
They put him over as the person to succeed Hogan. Of course, it would get derailed by Lex Luger push, but eventually at WrestleMania 10, he would be at the top again as champion. But it did not end there. What happened when he was crowned champion, Lore?
So they did the coronation. And going back to what you said, Zigga actually earlier in the show made a point to saying that Bret Hart did not use the sharpshooter in any of these matches in the finishes, but then did go for it. So it meant a lot more. So it almost seemed to me on the production side of things that they were maybe running out of time, because they were really rushing Bret to the stage where they had the throne and the crown and all of that stuff. The Luna Vachon run-in seems so out of place and so weird, and it didn't look very good either. The entire execution of that stuff looked unfortunate. It didn't seem to work out the way that everybody thought it would, but I feel like this entire tournament leading up to Bret Hart finally winning the whole thing and getting essentially the torch passed to him, immediately set up a program with Jerry the King Lawler, who came out and said that he was the one true king and decided to put the boots to Bret Hart, spoiling his ceremony. And if I'm not mistaken, you were talking about a rib injury. Do you feel like that probably happened when Jerry the King Lawler literally picked up the throne, the seat, the heavy ass seat, and dropped it on Bret Hart as he was laid out on the stage?
That's exactly when it happened. Bret Hart actually wrote that in his book.
Yikes.
Yeah, he said he couldn't breathe right for several days after that.
I could imagine. What a shitty thing.
Yeah.
Like, you want to protect the people that you're doing work with. You wouldn't want to have that shit happen to you. But then at the same time, you want to make it look good for television and stuff like that. And there's actually a pocket of performers out there that really want to sell the idea that this shit is legit. And so they put themselves through that type of stuff. I feel like sometimes that line gets blurred sometimes, and you'll get somebody like a Darby Allin who goes out there and does the wildest shit. One of these days, it's not going to work out well for him, and you can get hurt, seriously hurt, off of some simple stuff. I remember Edge and Jeff Hardy had a random house show match, and they went to go for a tie-up, and Edge blew out his Achilles tendon or something, just stepping backwards in a match. So putting the people that you do work with, the people that you do business out there with, you want to try and protect them the best way that you can. And when I saw Jerry the King Lawler throwing that chair on top of Bret, I was like, damn, dude, he is not having a good night. He's got his shit rocked throughout the entirety of it.
Yeah, so according to Bret, that feud with Jerry Lawler was supposed to be from King of the Ring up to like mid-July, and then he would prepare for Hogan in August. But because he got injured, they had to move it to SummerSlam.
Interesting. Didn't even know that.
So now I have some stats for you.
Let's go.
So
I love numbers.
In the arena, attendance, 6,500 people. It was the lowest attended King of the Ring until the 2000s.
Yikes.
However, at this time, that was actually good for them because they were in the smaller arenas. And then 245,000 pay-per-view buys, which is very, very strong for this era. And then, so we were talking about people leaving for WCW, leaving the company in 1993. So 60% of the wrestlers 6 months ago in January would be gone by the end of 1993.
Yikes.
And I have a list of the more prominent people that left in 1993.
Uh-oh.
Big Boss Man, Bobby Heenan, Nasty Boys, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who would go on to be the Booty Man and the Disciple in WCW.
Hey, booty is booty.
Yeah, Mr. Ass, Mr. Booty, whatever you want to be. We got the Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon, Giant Gonzalez, Jim Duggan, Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Hart, Kamala, Mean Gene Okerlund, Mr. Hughes, Papa Shango, Repo Man, who's originally from Demolition, Ric Flair, Sherry Martel, Tito Santana, and Terry Taylor.
Wow, what a list.
Yeah. So now I have another shorter list. So I'm going to ask you who you would replace in the tournament, if you will. So let's fantasy book this a bit. I'm going to give you a small list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that were left out of this pay-per-view. And you tell me if you would replace anyone in the tournament with these people. So first up, we have the 1, 2, 3 kid, who would later go on to be X-Pac.
That was one of my first choices. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Who would you replace him with?
Either Lex Luger or Tatanka. That would probably be one of the first that I would pluck out of there. I could see 1, 2, 3 kid having a more dynamic and action packed match, more so than a Lex Luger or a Tatanka for sure.
So, in my opinion, what I would do is I would put him in the first round matchup with Razor Ramon because they had that feud recently where the 1, 2, 3 kid upset him on Raw. So the whole question is, can the kid do it again? So the next person,
strike twice.
There you go. There you go. The next person is Jerry the King Lawler.
So Jerry the King Lawler is an interesting case because, he definitely has the credentials, he has the equity, he has the star power. But I feel like his forte isn't the in-ring work. So a tournament wouldn't serve him very well in his character. So I would actually keep him off the tournament, and I would keep him as the foil to Bret Hart towards the end. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, he was exactly where he needed to be on that show.
Okay, so next two are a wild card. So we have Coco Beware.
No, I don't see any. I don't see any upside to putting a Coco Beware out there. So there is a saying that John Cena likes to tell this story, and I think it has something to do with Arn Anderson being an agent for one of his matches. And it was something that Arn Anderson said to the effect of to John Cena that he had to do some business with somebody and give them a little bit extra, put them over a little bit extra. And it was something around the idea of tonight is not your night. So you can't just have everybody on the show do everything. And so it may be a good idea, it may be a good story, it may be a good piece of business, but not tonight. And so I would probably put that in that category.
So this one is a little bit weird. Max Moon.
Oh my God, Conan. Holy shit. I love Conan, actually. One of my low-key favorites when it comes to the Lucha Libre, obviously, the history, the lineage, and all of that. I'm gonna have a bias and say absolutely. I would even go as far to say instead of having that 15-minute match with Tatanka and Lex Luger, I would have thrown 1-2-3 Kid and Max Moon out there. Just have a banger, just have a match. But here's the thing of it, okay? As somebody that watches pro wrestling, I know that Max Moon and 1-2-3 Kid can go out there and have a great match. But I understand that you need to have the name and the star power of a Lex Luger and a Tatanka. They're both pillars of the WWE brand. They're recognizable. They will cater to the casual fan, the casual audience. They'll be the characters, they'll be the sights to see, they'll be the box office attractions. Now their in-ring work may be something to be desired, at least in this match, but if I was to be a wrestling purist and say I would rather see a Max Moon and a 1-2-3 Kid have an actual 15-minute banger, that doesn't equate to good business, and also it doesn't equate to a good structured entire tournament in its entirety. So yeah, I would have to also kind of keep that as like if I wanted to book it to watch a wrestling match, yes, let's do a Max Moon. But in terms of name power and, adding equity to the tournament by having these names, I would have to keep them off the tournament.
Now, how would you feel about a Max Moon versus Mr. Perfect in the tournament?
Now, that would be a clash of styles. I would definitely be interested in seeing something like that because Mr. Perfect, he can gel with any competitor. And I know that Conan is very capable in the ring. So they could actually, that almost seemed like the missed opportunity there.
I always loved Max Moon before I even knew who he was because he looked like Mega Man.
So I'm getting updated here. Darkside Rander is telling me, while you're correct that Conan was going to be Max Moon, when he saw the costume, he noped out and the gimmick was given to Paul Diamond. Well, take everything that I just said and throw it out the window because maybe I was just too hot for a Conan 1-2-3 Kid match. So just take everything that I just said and then apply it to Paul Diamond.
Well, the Max Moon, he did like 2 weeks of it, but he got tired of carrying all the stuff through airports and stuff.
Well, then there you go. I'm going to say that take everything that I just took off the table and put it back on for those 2 weeks. Everything that I just said still stands and is still valid.
But I believe at this time during this pay-per-view, it was no longer Conan, though.
Ha!
Okay, so we'll go to the next one. This is a very interesting time because he's not quite at his peak. He's not quite at the next level yet. And that person is Owen Hart.
Wow. So, I'm a huge Owen Hart fan. Even when I was growing up, I appreciated Owen Hart in the ring, he had this natural charisma about him. Obviously, the association with the Hart family and Bret Hart. I'm a fan of Bret Hart. I love his in-ring work, obviously. I love how bitter he is. I love how he doesn't take any shit. And it's an absolute tragedy that we lost Owen Hart the way that we did and as early as we did.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if he was still alive to this day, he would contribute so much to the pro wrestling world, and it's a tragedy. Absolutely, without a doubt. I would figure out a way. While we were talking about like the business side of things, how you have to have the big names in the tournament to make it seem, important. To have Owen Hart in the tournament would absolutely positively be a net positive for it. And I do believe, actually, if I'm not mistaken, that Owen Hart went on to compete in a King of the Ring.
The following year, 1994, he did compete and won the tournament.
Look at that. Look at that. Something
So
about
you had 1994 was Owen Hart, and the previous two were Bret Hart. So the Hart brothers dominated.
Look at that. Well deserved too.
And we have one last name in this. It's a big name, but I don't know if you want to put him in the tournament or not. The Undertaker.
Wow. Okay.
Because if you put him in the tournament, you have to beat him.
Exactly. So it's either he has to win or he has to lose. And if he's in the tournament, then it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to win it all. Because at the time, Undertaker was unstoppable. I mean, even to this day, you could throw him in any type of situation and know that he's going to have a very good chance of winning the whole thing. So it would be more advantageous to everybody else in the tournament to keep the Undertaker out of the tournament. Now, the cool thing about the Undertaker is that you can pretty much slot him anywhere on the show and it would technically make sense. But going back to what you were saying about how Bret Hart and Owen Hart, pretty much the King of the Ring tournament was made to establish them as legitimate competitors and as larger names in the company. The Undertaker is a character, and The Undertaker is a gimmick, and he doesn't really need to be in the tournament in order to reaffirm that or to prove that point. So, for the sake of just keeping things, keeping the spirit of what the tournament is supposed to be, I would keep The Undertaker out of the tournament, yes.
So here's a fun fact. The Undertaker has only had one single King of the Ring match.
And what was that?
And it was in 1995.
Jesus. And
he lost, too.
And what match was that? Who did he go up against?
It was a first round match, I believe.
What the?
And he lost to the winner.
1990. I'm drawing the blank, brother.
King Mabel.
Oh, no. That's probably why.
But not only that, King Mabel pinned him cleanly without any interference.
Look at that. Undertaker did what Hulk Hogan could not, and that's put over somebody clean, at least in that era.
Yeah. So now we get the star ratings from a pro. Mr. Diaz here.
Oh, my.
What is your star rating for Bret versus Razor?
Well, I'm not going to be generous with the stars, but I'm going to be fair. And I'm also going to grade on a curve. So I'm only going to add this ranking system under the idea that it's based off of everything else that's gone on this show isolated. I feel like would be the fair way of doing it. So when it comes to Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon, and that's the one we're talking about, right? The first match in the King of the Ring tournament.
Correct.
On the first show, on the first match on this show, I'm gonna definitely have to give that a. What are we doing it out of? 5 stars, 100 stars.
It's up to you.
I don't know. Let's do 5 stars. Will be the best. I'm gonna give this a 4 star. It's an excellent opener. It is exactly what it needs to be. I liked everything about it. You had 2 competent talents doing everything that they can to sell the legitimacy of this tournament, set the standard for the rest of the show, and set Bret Hart on a path to win the whole thing. So for all the things that it set out to achieve, it did it and then some. So 4 out of 5.
Nice. Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes, Battle of the Misses, or the Misters.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna have to knock it down a couple of stars because when it comes to the in-ring abilities of both Mr. Perfect and Mr. Hughes, it's definitely going to be skewed in one direction. I'm going to leave it to your imaginations to put the dots together there. I'm still very amazed that Mr. Hughes was able to wrestle with glasses on the whole time. So I'll
In a
maybe have
suit?
to give some consideration to that. It served its purpose. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. I'm going to say 3 stars, right there in the middle.
Yeah. And also, I believe Mr. Hughes' last appearance in WWF or WWE was as Chris Jericho's bodyguard, too.
I remember that now that you mention it. Wow. Crazy how all of these things kind of happen and then we quickly forget.
So next up, we have the time limit draw, Lex Luger versus Tatanka.
Oh my God. Well, it served its purpose. Like I said, it felt like an eternity. I did not enjoy it at all. I did not enjoy this at all, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say 2 stars.
Next up, we have second round matchup, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did we forget Bam Bam versus Jim Duggan?
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Sorry about that.
No,
Bam Bam versus Jim Duggan. That's my fault.
No, you're good. I'm going to say this is a 2 as well. I'm going to say that I was at the same level. It was not pretty. It was not a pretty affair. It didn't stand out in any type of way. If anything, it just served to give Bam Bam some momentum going into the finals or into the next round.
And we have PWR in chat. Luger!
Thank God for another day, am I right?
See, we can have fun, PWR. So next up, we have Bret versus Mr. Perfect.
Now, this is where things get good. I'm definitely going to have to put that up there in the on the curve that we're grading all of this on. I'm going to have to give it a 5 out of 5, 5 stars. This was the match of the night for me. 2 very competent professional wrestlers doing what they do best and telling a great story while they were at it. The story leading up to this was great, having the importance of the tournament really shine through in this one match. It was a perfect encapsulation of everything that was good about this show and this tournament. So 5 out of 5 stars, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect.
Then we go to Yokozuna versus Hulk Hogan in his very last televised WWF match.
Well, you knew I had to do it to him. 1 star. I had no investment in this match. The cartoony nature of Yokozuna doesn't age very well. The paparazzi finish that protected Hogan on the way out the door. This was a symptom, unfortunately, of a larger problem, obviously, with the steroid scandal. Everything going up to it was a transaction in order to get to the next part, but a necessary evil in order to get to this next generation of talent that they wanted to shine the light on. So 1 out of 5 stars, Hulk Hogan, Yokozuna.
Of course, Hulk Hogan that night said, "That doesn't work for me, brother." Next up, we have Steiner's Smoking Guns versus Money Inc. and Head Shrinkers.
So really not too much to say about this match either. It was really cool to see everybody doing their thing out there. It just seemed like a maybe a concession match, one of those cool down matches in order to get the crowd more hyped for other things that are happening and also to break up the monotony of it. So it was there. Nothing was really terrible about it outside of that finish. And in fact, that finish was so bad, I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5. That finish was baffling to me. It made no sense. I don't understand why the $1 Million Man let go of the $1 Million Dream only to be rolled up immediately after. I wish I understood. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, but the purpose of a professional wrestling match is for you to understand why the things are going on. And if it leaves you with more questions than you had coming in, then I can't look past the 2 stars.
So next up, we have IC title match, HBK, PWR's favorite wrestler, versus Crush, the annoying 90s guy.
So I like Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is very capable, and he was untouchable back in the day. And Crush, he met his level. He didn't look out of place, and even though he did have just a cup of coffee in the WWF, being able to be presented on a big stage like King of the Ring in the Intercontinental title match is nothing to scoff at. It was a perfectly capable match, perfectly capable segment. Shawn Michaels actually also gives it a little bump, but not too much. I'm going to say a 4 out of 5.
Do you remember Crush's gimmick in the Attitude Era?
Brother, I was high for the majority of the Attitude Era watching the WWF, so you're going to have to refresh me.
So he came back as a convict, dreadlocks and everything, and was in the Nation of Domination with Savio Vega and D'Lo Brown and all them.
Are you kidding me? What the?
Yeah, he was like the only white person in there with Farouk and all them.
Now, I thought that was Owen Hart, or am I mistaken, or is this a new version of it?
They were both in it.
What the?
So
wow.
when Farouk was in charge, Crush came in as his
white
associate. Yeah. And then when The Rock took over, Owen Hart was part of it.
There we go. The Black Heart, which I really did like, by the way. The Black Heart, perfect.
I love that theme song, too.
Yeah. Enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
And then we get to the final match, Bret Hart versus Bam Bigelow.
So I'm a huge fan of Bam Bigelow, especially his work in ECW. He really did have a career resurgence there. I was too young to appreciate Bam Bam back in the day, but watching him now, especially back in the day, I can appreciate his in-ring work a lot more. So having Bret Hart versus Bam Bam at the end of the tournament, like I said before, was a fitting end to the tournament. The story leading up to it, the story of the match, everything worked up until Luna Vachon came out, which kind of drops it down a star. I'm going to look at the entirety of the tournament leading to this match more so than just the match itself, and I'm going to say that this absolutely delivered a 4 out of 5. It does take a little heat off of it because of the botched ring announcing and this weird ass finish that they had. If they kind of left all of that alone, it would have been a 5 out of 5 in terms of not just that match, but the entirety of the tournament leading to that match.
And then final question. This is open-ended. Is there any matches where you would change the outcome in the tournament?
So I had a lot of fun analyzing the why, the who and the whys of this tournament. I realized that a lot of the things that they set up earlier in the tournament and earlier in some matches, like the Mr. Hughes with the urn, paid off later on in the show or in the match. And I always do appreciate it when the product that I watch rewards people that pay attention. And as a kid, if I was watching this, I wouldn't have picked up on those nuances. But now with more modern day sensibilities, I could confidently sit here and say, I really did appreciate all of the little bits of this tournament that painted the wider picture. Now, WWF couldn't get out of their own way, and they had to have some silly shit throughout, like the Doink the Clown shit and the Crush gimmick and just nonsensical finishes in that tag team match. But overall, I feel like it's a very competent and very confident step in the right direction. You're not going to hit it out the park every time throughout the entirety of the show. You're not going to bat 1,000. But I feel like the overall body of work of that show was strong. And the pen to paper results of this event makes a lot of sense and was a very good show. There was just a lot of misfires when it came to how they got there and why they were doing these things. Obviously, a lot of hands were forced in terms of the decisions that were made. So I wouldn't change a thing. Working with what they had, I feel like they were able to competently tell a story of this tournament and make it seem special. And then also, keep you wanting to watch more with Jerry the King Lawler stomping out Bret Hart towards the end of it. So all the pieces came together. Sometimes the execution fell flat, but overall, I think the show was a success.
Okay, so let's say Bam Bam Bigelow wasn't Bret Hart's final opponent. Who would you make his final opponent in this tournament? You can mix and match any of the brackets.
So if I was the wrestling purist, I would like to have Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect go out there and have a 30-minute epic out there that then resulted in some overtime, that then resulted in them going 5 more minutes. But again, you have to understand that there's a business side of this thing, and you're going to need to sell the idea of this story to families and kids and people that don't understand business side nuances. If I were to maybe put two names at the very end of the show, just like we were talking about at the very beginning of the tournament, Kurt Angle told me that the first match is probably one of the most important matches on the card outside of the main event. I would have made it so that Bret Hart and Razor Ramon were the final two and had themselves a classic. That would probably be the only thing that I would switch it up so that opening match, Bret Hart and Razor Ramon, closed out the tournament if I were to make a change.
Now, I'm going to put this out here. You tell me how good this sounds or bad this sounds. What if it was Bret Hart versus Lex Luger in the finals? Lex Luger is undefeated. He's got that steel plate in his arm, and then he's a cocky heel versus the babyface Bret Hart.
Now, I could definitely see that happening because you got the All-American. You had a lot of All-Americans on this show. You had Jim Duggan, you had Lex Luger, you had Hulk Hogan, and Bret Hart being that dastardly Canadian that he is, you could really actually play up to that a lot. So if that actually sounds like a very strong contender for a finals of a tournament, I could definitely see that happening. In fact,
yeah, because Lex Luger at this time was not the All-American; he was the narcissist.
Oh, yikes!
So
that's right.
Bret Hart would be the face in this, going up against this cocky heel that's undefeated.
Here I am. I'm being
the way
racist.
I would book it, yeah. But I think that's all. If you want to say anything, you want to have any questions?
Well, I wanted to show some love to everybody that's been hanging out with us here in the chat, and I apologize. I was not engaging with you guys at all, like I said on the pinned comment in the chats. We were going to really lock in and have conversations. We had the docket lined up right here. I wanted to show I wanted to show love to everybody that came through, that hung out with us, not only on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, over on this corner of the internet, but hanging out with us over on Dashfire's corner of the internet. It was a red carpet affair. I saw Jaha in the chat over here, Darkside Ranter, the Gucci Tank Arcade, Darkside Bird Real, Dr. Jomha. We're getting a lot of positive reactions for this
even
type of
PWR.
content. Even PWR coming through, and this could have been all yours. Reliving the peaks of our youth and even sampling thrills from back in the day that we've never sampled before. Like I said, I never watched this show in my life. I came in a lot later, and so that's why it's always good to have different perspectives. Dashfire has been a fan of this era and of pro wrestling for most of their life, and I've been doing it for most of my life. We're going to offer very different perspectives on how pro wrestling can be presented and how it's absorbed and how it resonates with people in the world. I find it fascinating to hear other people's opinions on pro wrestling, because I think the thing that really brings us together when it comes to pro wrestling is that anybody can adopt the pro wrestling mindset. Anybody can put on that pro wrestling hat and cut a promo, or strut to a song, making their own entrance, thinking of catchphrases, thinking of signature moves. Pro wrestling is a mirror to reality. And when you do have cartoonish Saturday morning villains like Yokozuna or the Head Shrinkers doing their thing, you can really see that it's found its footholding in modern day culture, even to this day. From back in the day, we can reminisce about the things that remind us of the golden era of wrestling. Other people have different golden eras of wrestling. People came in. I unfortunately, like, now hear stories of people like, hey, so when did you guys get into pro wrestling? Why did you want to become a pro wrestler? Well, I remember I started watching SmackDown when they had the fist up on the stage, and I'm like, wow, that was like 20, 30 something years ago. And it's so cool to be able to hear and experience why people fall in love with pro wrestling. And you don't even have to like it. It's just always been there. And it's always cool to hear how people perceive pro wrestling, because a lot of people in the industry and out of the industry, they have such varied perspectives on what they're seeing and what they can get out of it. And a lot of the times I try to keep away from having those type of conversations because I don't know how people are going to respond to it. And so far, you guys really do seem to like it. So I wanted to take the time to thank you all for coming out. Even the ones that were razzing us a little bit, anytime that you engage with the chat, it lets the algorithm know that this place is popping. And I don't know about you, Dashfire, but I don't like being in an echo chamber. I don't like getting the butt pats all the time saying, "Oh, you're right. Oh, I agree with you." I like the dissension. I like the back and forth, and I feel like in the wider breadth of things, if we all adopt a little bit of that pro wrestling mindset where we're all in on it and we all just know that it's for the performance of it all, I think that we can all get together and, celebrate the things that we love and be a little bit more tolerant of other people.
Yeah, exactly. It's the human nature to see things from different people's point of view. So you see it from your point of view, my point of view, someone else's point of view, and it makes you think, oh, what about this? What about that? So it's a great learning opportunity. If everyone said, oh, that's great, good job, I agree, 100%, it'd get boring so fast.
You need a
You
little
need
strife.
Yeah. And that was perfectly summed up. So at the end of April, we will reveal what our May episode is. However, we have something special planned in 2 weeks, I believe, which is the WrestleMania preview and predictions. And we are going to do a Dash versus Diaz predictions. So what that means is we're going to see who can get the most right.
Oh, it's going to be hot. I can't wait. And I always look forward to WrestleMania. I love how WrestleMania brings everybody together. And if I can be honest, I'm always going to associate the WrestleMania season for when we first met PWR, because when we first met him, he was talking about watching WrestleMania, and that's when you knew. That's when you knew that, like, everybody kind of turns into a pro wrestling fan around this time. And I love the fact that everybody can just kind of tap into this and experience this together. And we make an event out of it. I was actually looking at these photographs that I took of SoFi Stadium when I went to WrestleMania, I think 41 in Hollywood. It was a lot of fun. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do it again with the way these TKO prices are.
Yeah, like $5,000 for like a nosebleed section. But yeah, we could also talk about on that show in 2 weeks. You can talk about your experience at WrestleMania, my experience at WrestleMania, because I went to WrestleMania 18, where they had the Hogan versus The Rock.
Wow,
in Toronto.
Now that's awesome.
So
that must have
so
been
we can
electric.
talk about both of it. Yeah. So is there anything you want to promote from your stuff, Diaz?
Well, I know you
upcoming
guys
or usual.
I know you guys love coming out during the Stepmania streams every Monday through Friday, every weekday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to around noon. I'll be playing Dance Dance Revolution featuring your favorite AI-generated waifus, plus 20,000 plus songs available to request, including some Havo killer tracks and some PWR classics. We've got No More Abuse. We've got Welcome to My Childhood and so much more. We even have a couple of WWE themes. So if you got something that you want to see me step to, I'm more than happy to oblige. But that's not all. We have late night chill streams here on this channel. We like to watch a lot of people on the internet, and we have a lot of conversations about them. I've even actually been playing some video games. I've been playing Resident Evil 9 on stream. Thanks to the kindness and the generosity of the community, we were able to not only play Resident Evil 9, but we were playing Crimson Desert for PlayStation 5. I've been having a lot of fun with that. So if you wanted to check all of those things out, just look up Lord Diaz on YouTube, on Kick, on Twitch, and now on Rumble. I'm starting to get a foothold over on Rumble. I've been uploading a lot of my content over there as well. I would love to have you guys come through and hang out. We do a lot more than just these pro wrestling streams. I play Dance Dance Revolution, I watch stuff on the internet, and I play some video games. Other than that, you can find me on X if you just search Lord Diaz. I shit post up there a lot, and it's all jokes, guys. I just want everybody to know that when I turn on the camera, it's all in good fun, all right? It's all for the content. I want to make sure that everybody understands that, because some people, want to take it to the next level and be serious about it, but it's just not my jam, I just want to let everybody know that this is all in good fun. I had a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys had a lot of fun too.
Okay. And also, this week, tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a react to Turkey Tom's DSP video. On Sunday, I'm going to have the DSP weekend review. I am also going to do, I think it's next Thursday, or the upcoming Thursday, a Pig Go night. You guys suggest words for me. I go through Pig Go and see what we find.
Wow.
I have upcoming Dent stream of Redemption Games, the most disgusting thing you'll ever see.
Wow.
You can find me on Kick-Fire. You can find me on YouTube, Bad Moments Reacts and VODs, Twitter-Fire. I have a lot of stuff coming up, so subscribe to the channel, and hopefully you have some fun.
Yes, and thank you so much, Dashfire, for having me. Thank you for reaching out, by the way. Like, I want everybody to know, too, that I've done a lot of engineering for podcasts and for shows and productions on YouTube and stuff like that. And so I understand that there's a lot of work behind the scenes that go into making these things happen. And working with Dashfire has actually been one of the most pleasant experiences I've ever had. And anybody that has done work with Dashfire, I'm talking about Bland, I'm talking about Sav, everybody that has done work with Dashfire always puts over the fact that he is well-versed, he has his research, he has everything done up, and it made our jobs so much easier. So I wanted to take a moment to put you over and give you your flowers and let everybody know that we are working with a consummate professional right here. So big ups to you. Thank you so much for making this such a seamless experience.
Well, thank you for those words. And the whole thing is, too, the audience, the co-host, they deserve that level of respect, that someone will give that to them. And I hope everyone that's in chat that watched this, you're watching this on demand, live, whatever, I hope you're enjoying it, because that's the whole point of this. To escape reality of what's going on in the world, have some fun, laugh, get emotional, whatever you feel like. I just want you to have fun. That's the whole point of the internet. Don't take the internet so seriously.
Hear, hear.
Oh, XPW Soldier, Dash is hot. Oh, you said that right above PWR, too. And
Big
Lord
ups.
Diaz rules.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. No, really.
So, okay, so I'm going to let you go, Laura. I'll see you later, and then I'll see you in 2 weeks. WrestleMania preview and predictions.
I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all so much for hanging out with us here tonight.
Okay. You have a good one.
Peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are still here. We are still live. We are still hot. Allow me to do a little bit of a compression with you guys. Thank you. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm going to catch up with the chat, see how everybody's doing. Thank you guys so much. So, Dr. Jomha in the house over on the Kick platform with the hashtag No More Abuse. Big ups, WStream. Thank you so much. McBrew says that this didn't feel very Kino. That's okay. We're still working on it. Mr. Locale with the moral support over on Kick. Great stream, Pimp. Thank you. See you on Stepmania. God bless the chat and God bless the goal. No, you. Know you. Mr. Lolcow with the moral support. Hey, Pimp, love this content. Thank you. Hope you guys continue to bring forward the content like this. Thank you. Darkside Bird, real in the hot over on the Kick platform. Thank you so much. I may have been high. Yes, I may have been high. Marco in the hot. Welcome, my friend. I keep wanting to press the sound effect buttons, but they do not work. I turned them all off. I wanted to make it a conversation. I didn't want to muddy it up with alerts or sound effects. I know that might have been jarring. Let's see here. The Gucci hanging out with us over on Kick. Thank you so much. Boba the Fat also in the house. Thank you so much. Content Lasagna. I see you, Pimp. Let's get PWR on for the after show. Hey, who's not to say that we might invite him on the next one? That would be interesting. What do you think? What do you think? McBrew. Appreciate you. And look, here's the thing. Mickey Rourke, I see you over on Kick. Thank you. He was in Ames just before. Tank Arcade also in the hop. Batu. There you go. Yeah, changing it up. Changing it up. I'm scrolling up just to make sure I don't miss anything. Drunk Driver polluting the chat with the nonsense. Appreciate that. Darkwind in the ha with the hashtag no more abuse. Very informative. Loving it. Thank you. Darkside Ranter in the ha. Walter White Real. I see you causing a ruckus. Well, I appreciate the engagement. Mustard Jeans, welcome. Her Wagner, I see you. Big ups. Dr. Jomha with the hashtag no more abuse. Big ups. We're hot. We're going to need a fire extinguisher. True. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. And look, I'm not looking for butt pats either. If there's something that we can do to make the show better for you guys, please do let me know. Please do let Dash know. Web G in the ha saying jingle jangle baby. Any WrestleMania predictions? We're gonna do that next. That'll be our next show. We're gonna do our WrestleMania predictions. Cult of Carney over on the YouTube product. If you want a suggestion, lower your ums and ums a few notches. Okay. I will do that. Yes, I'm gonna sound like Jeremy from the Quartering. I only think I would say is the shame you can't show clips. Yeah, because WWE will clip them. So like I said, I did work for I just said Tony Schiavone and Arn Anderson and Road Dogg and all of them. So we had clips set up and we would play them and they would talk about it, but they would always hit for copyright and we would try to put watermarks over it. We would try to reflect it, but it never worked. It never worked the way that we wanted it to. So unfortunately, playing clips is not something that we can do, at least on YouTube. So maybe if we do it on Kick specifically, but we'll see. So the Cult of Carney says viewer's choice pick go could be lots of fun. Yes. Fear Monarch over on YouTube. Big ups. I was just talking about this on the show. I do about how it's great having different people discuss something they like because you get to see different perspectives. Yes. Darkside Ranter also rocking out on YouTube. And thank you for smartening me up. Next Gen Guy, welcome. Hello. Over on the YouTube. Let's see here. Teria. PWR1. Wiggity Wah. Okay. Very cool. Thank you. Honky Kong in the ha. Big ups. Zigga in the house, thank you so much. And meaningful content also in the house. Big ups. Thank you. XPWR Soldier, I see you. Channel Handle, I see you. And I will work on the uhs. Sonic Jaded in the ha. Jaha in the ha. Big ups. Sound off in the chat if I haven't said your name. Firestorm Gaming. Big ups. PWR's been acting strange all night. It was distracting. Hey, I mean, it kind of goes to show that this show was the place to be. So I'm happy for that. Big ups. Can't really comment because I'm at work, but I thought it was great, professional, and informative. Glad you guys are doing another one. Thank you. Thank you. I do think that I was maybe trailing off a little bit. I was kind of just like word vomit. I'm going to try and tighten up and make my soliloquies a little bit better. I swear I have points when I'm bringing these things up, but sometimes I just get distracted. But I had a lot of fun. Wouldn't be the first time PWR stormed the chat. Well, at least he was cordial. I'll gladly. I've never blocked PWR. He's welcome to stop through anytime he wants. He can even act a fool if he wanted to. First show jitters, exactly. With the reps, it's going to get easier. With the reps, it'll get easier. See it from a lot of the IWC. Yeah. He's been in Ames chat too. Ha! Interesting. Yeah, you must be... It's, you know, it's ebbs and flows. I've said it before. You get the feel of chemistry working with someone after a bit. I feel like you understand that concept. I try. But I had notes. Like, Dash was he was professional. He was prepared. I had all of my notes. I took a lot of notes. There were a couple flashes of brilliance, too. I feel like I made a couple of good points there. However, here's the crazy thing, too. Like, wrestling is so fucking petty. If somebody in wrestling sees this, they're going to see, like, listen to this motherfucker. I don't give a fuck anymore. But I definitely had a lot of fun. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it as well. I'll be back at my ADHD prime peak tomorrow morning with the Stepmania stream, and then I need to remember to turn on all of my alerts because I have them all turned off right now. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and when I did the stream with Dash earlier this year, it was so much fun. It was so easy. I didn't have to do anything but show up and talk into the mic. So I was happy for that. Overall, informative and keeping it professional. Good to see some wrestling talk with some passion to it. Yeah. I had a lot of fun. And I was super high when I was watching the pay-per-view. I was taking some really good notes. I was happy with it. And you know, I wanted to do this. For a while. But again, it's a lot of work. So having Dashfire come through and literally, like PWR said, do all the heavy lifting was really cool. I'm for it. I'll gladly do any type of except for the medicinal cousin content. I won't do that. Yeah, we're gonna start winding down for the evening. Let me just turn on all this other stuff. Let me just turn this other stuff. I had all the overlays off. All right, go ahead and hit some emotes in the chat. Let me see some emotes. We got Scarlet. I appreciate that. Yeah. You know, like, so when I'm coming back from a show, I usually turn on like a JD from New York or a Solo Monster. Because I'm still in like that wrestling mindset. So I'll like listen to a pro wrestling podcast on the way home. For some reason. Okay, I'm glad that we're all here doing this because it's not showing up. Maybe I'm dented.
Let's get some
goddamn support.
factually fucking based.
Yes, fire off the sound effects too. There it is. All right.
Lord Diaz is king.
Hit me with some emotes.
I'm a pedophile now.
Screw off.
Oh my god, he's fucking puking.
Screw off.
There we go. You can hear that, right?
Them all.
We got a contribution,
Just tell
fans.
me what the first Metallica record was called.
Test me, bitch.
There it is. Thank you, McBrew. Let's get some emotes.
You have got to be frickin' kidding me.
We the best.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck.
Damn, I don't even use that one anymore. The math. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. All right, we're in the after party now, baby. The decompression stream. There we go. How about that? Did you see? Yes, I saw it. I was dying. I was in Ames chat when it happened. He's huffing paint, bro. It's so funny.
And his name is John C.
Ooh, that didn't show up. Okay, hold on. That didn't show up.
And his name is John C.
Ah, there it is.
And his name is John C.
All right, I figured it out. There we go. Good enough. Good enough. We'll go over here. When is PWR dropping that new Havo killer? Hopefully soon. I want to hear it. I'm going to live react to it. You think maybe that's why he's been going around to all the chats so he can build up interest for this song? I think that's what it is. Saturday? What am I doing Saturday? I sure hope I don't have a show. Okay. All right. I think I got it figured out. All right, guys. We're going to call it a stream. Guys. He dropped a preview on Ames' stream. Holy shit. I'm missing out. Yeah, I'm going to go in blind. But you know what, guys? You know I say this every time. But this was the greatest stream in the history of our sport. You want to know why? It's all your fault. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of this inaugural episode of Smark Guys 3.0. We are hot. Tomorrow morning, I hope to see you all, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be playing Dance Dance Revolution. You already know. Featuring your favorite AI-generated waifus. If you haven't done so already, please do check out Dashfire's channel. Subscribe, follow, do all that. Let me know what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. And with all that being said, you know I love each and every one of you platonically and consensually. Please do stay happy, healthy, and hydrated. And until next time,